Well, if you've read comics in the last, 40 years or more, no need for introductions. Here's Mike Barron. RJ Critical Blast will be joining us later. And of course, Shadowhawk, my co host, when he gets off work, he got a new job today. And speak of the devil, and here he shows up. Hey, Shadowhawk.
Hello, Brian. And hello, Mr. Barron. I'm shocked and amazed and pleased. How are you,
Hello,
sir?
Mr. Hawk.
Thank you, Mike, for coming on at short notice. Uh, you know, appreciate that. I thought, I already had RJ set up to come in, but I said Mike Barron says he'll come on, and RJ anyway from over on Pops's channel, so no rub there, right? I think you two can share a little time together. Might be nice to see him. Well, I don't stop. I don't. I try and give hard questions, but Mike, I'll try and take it a little easy on you today. I won't beat up on you too badly. But I do have to start out with this. It's been on my mind, been on my heart. I got to meet him a couple of times, and his lovely wife Virginia, and his son Junior, John Romita. Any recollections of John Romita Sr.?
I'm sure I met him when I was up in the Marvel offices for the first time in the 80s. He was a
Uh-huh.
great artist, but I don't really recall. I didn't spend much time with John.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're losing our greats, aren't we? We're losing some big names. I know last time we talked, I think I mentioned Neil Adams and George Perez and Tim Sale and just a bunch of creators. It seems like I don't know what. Mike, you've been writing for how long? Did you have a number two pencil in your crib or?
I started writing when I got out of college. In fact, my first job out of college was smoking marijuana for the government.
Oh,
And
you weren't in that
Awesome. Where do
Timothy
I sign up?
Leary program, were you?
no, I'd moved to Boston because I heard there were newspapers who would hire anyone who could write. And I stayed with some friends, uh, and I responded to an ad in the back pages of the Boston Phoenix looking for volunteers to live on a hospital ward in Mattapan for a month, smoke government dope every day, and take a battery of tests. It was just like college. And when I got out, I wrote that up and submitted it to the Boston Phoenix, and they printed it. And soon after that, they hired me as their music editor.
Music editor. Now
Yeah.
that's kind of a twist.
Well, I've been a music nut my whole life. I've always been
Yeah.
writing about music. In fact, the reason I started writing was when I was in college. I went over to a friend's house, and he was the publisher of a weekly alternative newspaper. It was called Takeover,
Mm.
and he had all these LPs leaning up against the wall. I said, "Mark, where'd you get all these records?" And he said, "The record companies send them to us. You want to take some? All you got to do is write something about them." And so, I grabbed a huge wad and I went home, and I've been writing about music ever since just to get the free records.
And
There
reading
you go.
underground comics. When did you discover underground comics?
Well, that was in college too. One day when I was a senior, somebody rang the front door, and I went down there, and it was Dennis Kitchen. And somebody had given Dennis my name and said, "Check this guy out. He might write for you for the Daily Bugle," because Dennis was a pioneer in underground comics. So that started our long association.
Yeah.
And I did quite a bit of work for Dennis over the years, and we're still good friends. He had a farm up in uh, Princeton, Wisconsin, with a huge barn, and he would put people up in the barn, artists like Art Crom and
Oh, wow.
Gilbert Shelton, and they'd stay up there while they worked on projects for him. And he
Yeah.
used to throw wild parties. It was
Uh-huh.
great.
Now
Sounds
you're up
amazing.
in Colorado. You told me. What's the best thing about Colorado, where you're at?
Uh, well, the madness which seems to have seized so many cities has largely passed over our little town of Fort Collins. It's beautiful here. One of the best things about it is the musical talent in this city is astonishing. We were out
Wow.
last night listening to a band and they just blew us away. We can go out 5 or 6 nights a week and hear live music. And we do, when weather permits. It's been raining here for 2 weeks, but last night was beautiful.
Well, you have touched greatness today because Shadowhawk, he got to kiss Grace Slick once when he was 16 years old.
Really?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. We actually got backstage, bribed some of the roadies with some weed, and got to meet the band and ended up hanging out with them for a little while after the show. And they pulled a dine and dash on us. They pranked us. We were at the Denny's right next door to the venue. And all the guys got up, and then Grace was the last one there. And she gave me a kiss as she was leaving and said thanks, and headed towards the bathroom, I thought. Never came back. So they stuck us with the bill.
That's a great story.
I
Was
was
it a
too
good
dazzled
kiss,
to even
though?
think about it. I was
You
like,
glossed over that. Was it a good kiss?
yeah, it wasn't bad from what I remember. I
Oh,
mean,
the story is worth it.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You had to pay the bill.
Yeah.
Have you ever stuck anybody
That was
with
the best
the
part.
bill, Mike?
No.
No.
Thank God we
Uh,
still had some money left after the concert, because it could have gone bad.
What's I see your dogs there. Yeah. Don't you have how many dogs you got?
Hello,
3?
Santa Heck,
2?
Mike Walters.
You got 3. Yeah, I thought you had 3. Yeah. What's the best thing? Yeah, have you owned a dog all your life pretty much?
Well, I've had dogs for the last 30 years. And when we were kids, I had a dog.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's a long period of time when I went to the university and I lived in Boston. And then I returned to Madison, Wisconsin. And it wasn't until years later that I got another dog when I was married to my second wife. And now we have 3. We're
Now
not
you have
picky. We take any dog that crosses our path.
Hey,
Hey,
Tree
Tree
Goblin.
Goblin. Fanta's here. Hex Allen's here.
Hex is
Mike's been here. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure we'll have some more pile in here. And RJ will be joining us at 4:30. But are you working on your next project? You're always working on your next project, aren't you, Mike?
I'm working on 5 or 6 projects now. I got 2 other dogs here.
Yeah.
You can see the tail. There goes Bob. Bob's our
Yeah.
most famous dog. He's very
I
funny.
have a Jack Russell over here. She's all curled up, comfortable.
My latest project, which is complete and is in funding now, is Bronze Star, a supernatural Western with
Pat
Pat Broderick.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you've seen the art, it's
Oh, yeah.
the greatest work of Pat's career.
It is.
Oh, that's amazing.
Is he taking more time? I mean,
Well, this is
under
a passion project with his, and the reason is because he's responsible for the story. I said, Pat, what do you want to draw? And he said, I want to draw a weird Western. So I wrote one for him, and it's great. We both are very pleased with the results. And if you could show some of that black and white art, it will blow people's mind. I think there's some pages on the sign up page on Fund My Comic. If you scroll down there,
Okay.
well, first of all, go to Fund My Comic. And
All right, I'm going to the links you sent me because
Yeah.
that'll take me right there to it.
right. And if you fund out, I mean, I'm looking at a black and white page now that'll just blow your mind.
Which I already had it brought up actually.
Great.
Yeah.
And the art is so great that we're doing an oversized black and white artist edition. Pat doesn't just draw the figures in the foreground. He doesn't skimp on telling his story. He puts the figures in the foreground, he draws the middle ground, and he draws the far horizon.
Yeah.
Well, now I remember his work on Captain Atom for DC for a while, and other projects. Even in the '80s, there was a lot of independent things going on. A lot went on in the '80s of comics.
Mhm.
Did I bring up Private American? I brought up.
Yes,
Private
you did. Yeah. Now, scroll
Or
down
no,
to that.
here's Bronze Star. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry. All right, so here we go. Pat Broderick, written by you.
Yep.
He really is knocking it out of the park. I mean, on
Look at
this
that
project.
werewolf, man. That's spectacular.
I've never seen such detailed, work, and this is out of Pat, so this, you can tell this is a real passion project for him. Was it?
There,
Oh, look
that's
at that
that black
artist
and white
edition,
page
dude.
I was
Wow.
referencing.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh my
so
God.
I mean, when you work for DC, Marvel, and others, right? You're under time constraints. You just can't. I put this level. I mean, you can, but put this level of detail. I see more detail in this work for Pat, although it's pretty much Pat's stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I've
I'm gonna
always
have to
liked.
get the artist edition. I think that's beautiful stuff.
He did a book. I want to call it Sunrunners, but that might have been Dan Jurgens. Pat did an independent book, maybe for Pacific Comics, that he drew. That kind of introduced me to his work. I can't remember the name of it right now.
Is there any limit on the artist edition, Mike? Like how many copies, or is it just going to be however many sell?
Well, I'm not sure. The Chris designed the campaign. Wait, let's see what it says about the artist edition here.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay,
know.
where am I at here then? Artist edition on here.
For the first 30 days, we were making available an oversized autographed artist edition. Limited quantity, a limited quantity. I don't know what that means, but it probably means no more than 100 at most.
All right, well, I'm going to have to jump on that quick then.
Artist edition, $75 plus shipping.
Nice.
Enjoy the breathtaking artwork of Patrick Broderick in its untouched, uncolored form, oversized, published in pencil and ink form straight from Pat's original hand-drawn pages. These collector's edition hardcover is crowdfunding exclusive, be autographed by the creative team, and it limited only to 150 copies. Yeah, 22 backers on that.
250. All right.
Yep. No, 150.
Oh, 150.
150 copies. Yep.
All right. Well, I better get on that quick.
Yes, indeed.
Hey, Carrie.
Hey, Carrie.
Rex, would you play the video?
I certainly will. I apologize now for my choppy ass theater, but here it is anyway, Mike.
America's bloodiest conflict. Over 500,000 died to preserve national unity. When the war ended, Confederates like Harley Brogdon headed west, shooting game for the army and gambling. When a card game turns deadly, Harley shoots in self-defense, killing the card sharp who threw down first. Wilfred Knorr, the card sharp's wealthy father, will stop at nothing to see Harley hang. Harley flees to Cobb's Gap, an old silver mining town at the foot of the Rockies. A remarkably peaceful town, especially after dark. But the sheriff harbors a dark secret, and no one dares go into the mines anymore. Cobb's Gap is full of secrets. People speak in hushed tones of something in the mines. Something worse than their cursed sheriff. Something even the Indians fear. Tired of running, Harley falls in love with a local widow with secrets of her own. But when Knorr's posse arrives seeking vengeance, the stage is set for a showdown with unimaginable horrors from the deepest pits of hell, and every secret will be exposed. Eisner winner Mike Baron and acclaimed illustrator Pat Broderick present one of the weirdest westerns that Comic Dom has ever seen. Bronze Star, a thrilling tale of love, revenge, and supernatural terror from the minds of two legendary creators. It's not the monster you're looking for. Order your copy at bronzestarcomic.com.
Oh, some would say you're trying to take comics by storm, Mike. You got Smokes the Fox, you got Bronze Star, you got Thin Blue Line, you got Florida Man, Private American. What the hell, man? Oh, look at that Thin Blue Line.
Yeah, this is our oversized artist edition of that.
All right, can we see that again, Mike? Could I get you to show that again? Look at that.
Oh, very nice.
That must be nice to look at that. Now the artist on that. Whoops, I'm sorry. The artist on that is a police officer himself.
That's right. Yeah, Joe is a
Yeah, that's
full-time
cool.
police officer, and he still finished this project ahead of many professional artists.
Something tells me, Mike, that you don't believe in defund the police.
Hey, Wiley J.
No, well, that's what Thin Blue Line is all about. It investigates the consequences of these people who defunded the police. But as always, my number one goal is to entertain. There's no speeches, there are no lectures. It's a story that'll grab you by the throat on the first page and carry you all the way through. It's an exciting, gripping, unforgettable story, which is what I do. It's what I try to do with every project. Years ago, young writers want to know if their stuff is any good. And there are many, many titles, books that I wrote 30 years ago or more that I felt did not get my best effort. But for the last 15 years or so, I haven't let anything outside of the house that's not a home run. And I'm confident in my storytelling. I'm excited about it. It excites me. If I don't have fun writing a story, the reader's not going to have fun reading it. Also, I feel a writer has to surprise himself before he can surprise the reader. And I do that with every story I write.
What about your inspiration? I know I asked you about what the toughest thing was about writing, first time we met, and you said basically the premise of the story.
Well, I'm a firm believer in outlining now. I didn't used to. I would just sit down and wing it. For 20 years, I wrote comics by drawing each page out by hand with all the captions and word balloons and directions. And artists and editors loved it because you could tell at a glance where the story was going. I'm not a great artist, good enough to get my ideas across. Now
Right.
I'm a firm believer in outlining. I start an outline by writing in a tablet, characters, situations, anything that might pertain to the story. And I keep at it until it reaches critical mass, at which point I can see the outline of the story, and I start to write the outline. The outlines can be very detailed, and invariably, as I'm writing the story, I veer away from the outline because, as every accomplished writer knows, if you create a compelling character, at some point he turns around and tells you what he's going to do next.
Right on. Is the American dream dead, Mike? Or is it dying? Is it in its death throes? What the hell?
This country's in trouble, Rex. It's in
Yes.
serious trouble, and it may be that the rot is too great, and we may never be able to recover from this. But this is the fate of every republic that ever succeeded. It happened to Rome. It happened to Athens, Greece. There's an old saying that harsh times build strong men. Strong men build good times, and good times build weak men. And now we're in the weak man phase of this republic.
It's rot from within, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Sure
Is Reagan and Trump, are those? I look at are they throwbacks?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think Reagan was a throwback. He was a canny guy. No, I think he was right for the times. People have this attitude that conservatives are antediluvian silverbacks who don't know what's going on, but quite the contrary. Conservatives understand the seriousness of life and the importance of character. Trump, we all wish that he had less of a temper and were more temperate in what he says. But in terms of policies and results, he's the best president of the last half century.
The reason I call Reagan a throwback maybe is that he did see in an earlier time. He did, as Trump is old enough and to see an earlier time, because I know, Mike, you remember coonskin caps and Davy Crockett, and when things were called wholesome in America, and America was the standard.
I'm not copping to that. Yeah, all right, that's true. I do.
Hey, I'm proud of it. You know, I got to see a slice of America. You know, the '60s was a groovy time. That's all I can say. You know, '50s are maybe even a little different than that, but I don't quite go back that far. But I'd own up to it if I did. You know, but it just seems like you know, things have really taken a turn very, very quickly. And I know this has been being led up to for a very long time here in America. We
I
just
don't
kind of
want
let
to
our
turn
guard
this
down
into. I don't
somehow.
want to turn this into a political forum.
Right.
I make no secret of the fact that I'm a constitutional conservative. Uh, I don't like what I see, and I do what I can.
Right.
As Andrew Breitbart famously said, politics is downstream from culture, and I deal in
Yep.
culture. And the books that I'm offering are very strong on conservative values, by which I mean common sense values.
Exactly.
It's a mistake to think that conservatives live in the past, because the height of Western civilization, its pinnacle, was the United States up through the end of the 20th century because of the Constitution, which is the most perfect political document ever devised. Now, all these people who have never read the Constitution think they're so much smarter than the founding fathers, but they're not. They're not serious people. The founding
Mhm.
fathers never envisioned career politicians. People who go into politics today, especially the people who control this government, go in for three reasons: to get rich, to enjoy special privileges, and to hurt people they don't like. And that's the sum total of their philosophy.
Who's written more books, you or Chuck Dixon?
Chuck. I can't keep up with Chuck. I keep writing him. Chuck, stop. You're writing too fast.
Uh,
I'm working on a book now that
Don't go
combines our
faster.
two characters. My biker character, Josh Pratt, meets Levon Cade. And I'm almost done with it. And it took me 4 months. I mean, it's ridiculous. Chuck can write a novel in a month, I think.
you probably don't have time to read, but other than comics, what do you read? What's
I
been
read
what's been an
history.
influence on you?
I just finished a book on Henry M. Stanley's last expedition through Africa. I find him fascinating. He was the greatest explorer of all time. He was not a nice man, but when you read what he encountered and what he endured, it's just staggering. I love crime fiction. Right now, I'm reading a horror novel by Mo Hader, but I like Robert Cray. I like Stephen Hunter, who created the Sniper series. My main influences are John D. MacDonald, Philip Jose Farmer, and Carl Barks. The reason I'm writing, and so many others, is because I discovered John D. MacDonald when I was growing up, and especially his Travis McGee series. And my biker series is my attempt to create a Travis McGee-like character, although Josh Pratt is nothing like Travis McGee. By that I mean a lone hero who down these mean streets must walk, as Raymond Chandler put it.
Mm.
But Josh is fairly unique among the hard-boiled private eyes being written today because he's very modest and hardly ever speaks.
Have you written noir? If you are, maybe I'm forgetting, Mike. I imagine you've touched on that a time or two, haven't you?
Well, I think all my biker novels are noir, and there are
Okay.
nine. There are nine
Okay.
out there now, and I'm working on the 10th.
All
Oh
right.
wow.
And they're called biker. If you go to Amazon, you put in Mike Barron biker, it'll come right up. And there are 9 novels, and I'm working on the 10th.
Now you ride, don't you?
Yes,
Yeah. How long have you ridden? College days?
I got my first motorcycle in 1966.
Oh, you're dating yourself, sir. You know,
Do you ride?
I do not. I actually ran under a combine and I quit at that point.
I know. Well, I haven't been able to ride because I had this reverse shoulder surgery a couple of months ago, and
Mm.
I'm waiting until I'm healed, and I can get my strength back.
Can you run us through a typical day in the life of Mike Barron?
Well, I get up, I feed the dogs, I make coffee, and then I go straight to the computer. I deal with correspondence And when I'm working on a project, I'll often work on the project off and on all day. It's rare for me to spend more than 3 hours on any single project, but lately I've been working on graphic novels, which I find satisfying and exciting. I just finished one which I think is the best thing I've ever written. I can't discuss it yet
Right.
because it's not my project. It was handed to me, but I brought it to life. And when we do go, we're going to go large, and it's going to blow people's minds.
Do you still do conventions?
Occasionally, I'm going to be in Chattanooga later this month for LibertyCon. I'm going to be in Fort Myers, Florida over Thanksgiving. And people keep trying to get me to cons in little tiny places. Well, the thing is, for me to get there, I would have to switch planes, and I just find flying a nightmare these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd prefer to drive. If I can drive, I can take a lot of books along and make some money. But when I'm flying, I don't fly heavy. I fly very light because I don't want to be dragging books along.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show, RJ.
Hey there,
Hey,
you're
RJ.
here.
How was work, RJ?
Well, you know what they say: a great day of work is worse than a bad day of fishing.
Yeah.
There you go.
No.
Yeah, Dan Wallace.
Hi, Dan.
Dan Lawless in the house. Mighty Mike Barron. Hey, Dan.
Dan illustrated
Hey, Dan.
a story I wrote in Giant-Sized Two-Fisted Manly Tales.
That's
Oh, excellent.
Grant
Grant
Nolan.
That's right.
yeah. Uh-huh. That must have been a thrill, right? To
It
get
was very
get paired
exciting.
up,
And
get paired up with an
Dan
artist.
did a private American cover that's just brilliant.
I've been saving this one because on Thin Blue Line, I believe you went on Fox News and got about a $10,000 bump on your campaign, if not higher.
Yeah, that's
And-
right.
And that speaks to, a bigger platform in comics. Where do we get there, Mike? What do we need to do to get the word out there?
Um,
You got to get people to hate you.
And cause this thing called comics to grow.
Yeah, be controversial, right?
well,
Oh.
I think that the trick is to offer vital, exciting stories that you can't put down. But Sturgeon's Law, Theodore Sturgeon was a great science fiction writer, and Sturgeon's Law says 90% of everything is crap. And he was right.
Out of 100, what as far as what you got there, I can't say it.
Diablo.
Thank you. I had oral surgery. It's hard for me.
I just
look at
sent you Dan's page, Dan's cover on your Twitter feed.
Okay, I will do that.
Oh, that's right. That's from the book I did with
Sorry,
RJ.
Cat. Rex is
Mike Barron.
distracted.
There you go.
The devil you
Wow.
know better on Amazon. Yeah, we do publishes, Rex, and we do publishes. Yeah, I speak real good English too.
Well, you're from
Yeah, we-
Arkansas, like I am, so we'll
I
forgive
know.
you.
And Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with Phantasmagorical or not. She's been doing
There we
tons
go.
of reviews for CG lately. She wanted you to know that she's a huge admirer, has huge respect for you as both a writer and an American.
Well, thank you.
Dan says, I always wanted to work with Mike since his first Comics Badger days. It was a real thrill to finally do that. And Dan's also reached another level, Mike. He did a Death Dealer cover for the Overstreet Price Guide.
Well, that's right in Dan's ring, because
Yeah.
he loves barbarians,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
don't we all?
his print for Kozor from the Barton Brothers is one of my favorites.
That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
had him on with Andy Smith talking some Kozor and Conan not too long ago. Out of 100%, let's say 100%, you were talking about reading crap. How many good writers are out there? What percentage are you think?
10%.
The
Yeah.
people that try and write 10%.
That doesn't apply to novels because there are a lot more good novelists out there than then the audience
Gotcha.
pick them up. I have writers that I think are terrific, and they don't make a living at it. Like Chuck Logan, for example. He lives in Minneapolis, and he's got a character called Broker, who's a Vietnam veteran. And his books are vital, fascinating, and interesting. And he had the good luck. Sly Stallone picked one up, Homefront, and made a movie out of it. What's that noise? It sounds like something grunting. Do you hear it?
Let me turn off my fan and see if that's it.
That's it.
I'm sorry. It's hot here in Arkansas.
I pity the fool.
No excuses, RJ.
And another artist was Ron Faust, who played professional baseball. He wrote a series of thrillers that are just brilliant. And again, the guy never really hit the bestseller list. And there's so many writers like that. The journeymen who just grind them out, and some are lucky and some aren't. Like Elmore Leonard was a guy who got lucky. His stories caught the imagination of Hollywood producers, and they turned a lot of them into film and TV series like Justified and Valdez is Coming.
Well, Justified was really good. I like that one.
What genre do you like to write best, Mike?
I would say hard-boiled crime.
Hard-boiled crime.
But right on the heels of Florida Man. And Florida Man's only purpose is to make you laugh.
Oh, yeah.
Dan, I did drop you the link in Twitter if you want to come on and say hi. You're
Hail
absolutely
Jonas Olson
invited.
and Gothic Arts. Welcome.
RJ, what about fulfillment and everything?
What about it?
of these programs? Is that kind of your secondary job? You weren't fulfilling, right?
Yeah. It's I tell you what, it grew from an idea to some pocket change to where this month I will be fulfilling American Bliss. I will be fulfilling Achromatic Chronicles Blue from Drunk 3PO.
Fiendish 2 here pretty soon.
Fiendish 2. Yeah, those are the projects that I've had to take off 9 days from work to attend to, because
I hope it becomes a full-time thing for you.
I tell you what, we do this once a month. It will be a full-time thing.
There you go.
Of that size. And that's not counting like at least 3 other smaller projects that are all coming to a head all in the same week. So we're doing the fulfillment, but like I showed you the book, we're also publishing, and that's the big thing that hit me today. I wasn't going to hype it when you first invited me on, because it wasn't here yet and I didn't know when to get it. But we got the proof copy today for our the Brothers Grimm, the complete illustrated fairy tales, and this is
very nice.
This is a monster of a book. This is a big boy.
Wow,
it's the original text of everything, but it's fully illustrated throughout with the different stories.
Wow, that's heavy. You're going to need a warehouse here pretty soon, my friend.
Yeah, it's got
how many pages are there?
540.
540. Whoa.
That's almost as much as Mike's written within a week.
That's a brick. Yeah.
People think I write fast, but I don't. I have a good friend who publishes 6 novels a year. And then Kevin J. Anderson, he's one of my publishers. Kevin publishes at least 500,000 words a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but he cheats because he doesn't actually type or write. He dictates to a recorder while he's hiking through the mountains.
Wow.
That must so is he using like speech to text after that, or is he typing it up himself?
No, he gives it to somebody to transcribe, and then he edits it. But he works on that stuff over and over again. I mean, he'll go over a manuscript 5 or 6 times. I find myself doing that with the present project because it's so complicated. It's more complicated than any novel I've ever written. And I have to make sure that everything works. And, I'm close to the end now. I'm very close to the end.
That last 10% is where 90% of the work goes.
Yeah.
Have a phone.
Yeah, you got to have a great ending, right? I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, the last 10%, I'm talking about the last 10% of the process where, you've got a first draft and now you got to go through and say, hey, does it make sense? Does it sound right? Could it sound better? It's an agonizing process.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, what's counterproductive to writers?
Procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a friend of mine who recommended a book to me called The War of Art. And it's all about get up off your ass and get to work. And that's the message on every page.
Yeah.
And it helped, although I have a good work ethic and I've never missed a deadline in my life.
Yeah,
And because you know, the other thing is I'm always working on several projects at once.
What? Well, yeah, you more irons in the fire, as it were, right?
Well, also because I can. It's very important. One of the reasons is that if you run into a dead end, if you don't know what happens next, then you can switch to another project and it completely reprograms your brain. And so you can get a fresh start there and come back to it later.
Yeah, I've always wanted to pick up, time management skills from successful writers to learn how I could increase my output. One of the earliest interviews on our channel you'll find is young me talking with this guy named Harlan Ellison and asking him how he managed to write so many things, and Harlan's eloquent and humble response to me was, "Well, that's a stupid question," and I was like, "I knew it would be, but here I am." but I would have rather asked him, it's like, what time management skills did you learn along the way that you could impart to up and coming writers to help them be as productive? So, Mike, you're the one who's here, so the task has been passed to you now to answer that question.
Well, I would say you got to write every day.
Yeah. One thing that kind of goes along with your procrastination statement is looking for inspiration. If you're just sitting around, we kind of learn by doing, don't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
Even if it's crap.
That's kind of like what Warren Murphy used to say in his writing classes. He said, if you're waiting for inspiration, you're not a writer, you're a waiter.
I agree. Too often I was waiting for inspiration and did nothing. It just not pay off. Is there a sweet spot in the day though, Mike, to write? I find when I'm either going to sleep or first wake up is where I find my biggest inspiration.
Morning.
Yeah.
But anytime when the muse strikes, I have a pen and pad with me at all times.
I do too. Yeah.
Next to my bed at night, because if I get an idea, I don't want to forget it. I'll get up and I'll write it down.
What do you most want to be remembered for, Mike? I know that's kind of unfair to ask, but I mean,
what I need to be remembered for, I don't know. I don't worry about that. I try to live in the present.
Right.
I'm happy with my accomplishments, but I feel that the best is yet to come.
There you go. And I kind of get that sense, like you've got the sales pitch. You're going to go far, Mike. One of these days, you're going to make it.
One of these days, you're going to make it big,
Mike. I mean, that's fine. I put up with that barking all the time too, Mike. I know what it's all about. One of these days, you just might make it.
That's what I'm waiting for. I don't have a problem with procrastination. I'm going to sit down and write as soon as I'm done reading everything on Twitter.
There you go.
Once I reach the end of Twitter, then everything's freed up and I can write.
Perfect. That sounds like a plan, RJ.
Can you name some people that you really enjoyed working with, Mike, throughout the years?
Jeffrey Butler, Stephen Butler, Bill Reinhold, Neil Hansen, Steve Rude.
Mr. Rude.
Yeah. Who else?
Butch.
Oh, yeah, Butch. Yeah, Butch. I'm talking to him, or I'm trying to, about a new project. I'd like to work with Andy Kuhn. I mean, there are a lot of artists I'd like to work with. I did one series with Paul Gulacy. I've always loved his work. I wish we could do more. Kelly Jones.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's nice to see Butch back again. I hadn't seen any of his work in a while. Of course, I'd given up on comics in like 2000. I didn't come back until 2018, so I hadn't seen anything in 18 years.
Gothic, I just did a video on my 10 top Westerns, and you can find it if you Google Mike Barron's 10 top Westerns YouTube.
Is Magnificent Seven in there?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Oh, great
We're
one.
good. Can you name a few others that might be on that list?
Number 1 is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance.
You took the words
Really?
right out of my mouth.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, what is so enthralling about that? John Wayne.
Well, it's a familiar theme. It's about the closing of the frontier and civilization creeping up on all the wild characters and bad men who ruled the roost back
Lee
in the
Marvin.
19th century. Lee Marvin, one of his best roles is a bad guy.
Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart is the lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
Shane is also on the list.
Oh yeah.
And the Wild Bunch, of course.
Yeah, Shane, RJ may not know this. You may not know that, but Shane, he was from Arkansas originally. He was born in Hot Springs.
You mean Alan Ladd?
Alan Ladd, yeah, a very short actor. Put him in heels with short women. He was
That's
on
right.
more. He was on more movie magazines than any other actor in the 40s. He was very, very popular in the magazines.
Hot Springs, Arkansas is also where I want to say it's the water utility building. It's still downtown. It's a little beat up now, but you saw it every time George Reeves went to work at the Daily Planet because that was the upshot that they used.
Oh, was it really? Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing that they got that shot out of Hot Springs.
Yeah, they did.
Especially back in the 50s, because the population wasn't that big back then.
Nope, but the building was there. And that's all they needed.
Yeah. I'm
It was a
only
stock
about
footage
45 minutes, as you know, from Dice, Arkansas, and that's where Johnny Cash was born.
Hey, Mike, do you listen to much of Western stories in the radio format? Because
No.
I've been, you're
When
missing
I
out.
drive around, I listen to new music. Freddie wishes to be heard. He ate. Freddie, you ate. Here he is.
Everybody has to have a voice, Mike.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, Freddie.
Beautiful.
Hey, Freddie.
Beautiful. Oh,
I've been really
Beautiful.
enjoying a lot of the radio westerns,
Getting
like
seasick,
Gunsmoke
Mike.
with William Conrad, who's just a great Matt Dillon, and the Six Shooter with Jimmy Stewart playing that role. So,
Right.
how about the Searchers?
Who?
Searchers. John Wayne, the Searchers.
I saw it once a long time ago, and I wasn't that impressed. I probably should watch it again. I love John Wayne, and I have 2 of his movies in the top 10. The other one is True Grit.
True Grit. I was going to say True Grit. Yeah. Rooster Cogburn didn't make the cut, huh?
No.
The sequel.
Did you know that there's a Rooster? No, I see. I'm wrong about that. I was thinking there's a sequel to The African Queen.
Oh, yeah.
starring Warren Oates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a
Now,
hold of
he
it.
was
but I
in
can't
Sam
find it anywhere.
Peckinpah's movie in 1969. Forgetting the name of it.
Ride to High Country.
No, it wasn't. No, that was Randolph Scott and McRae.
Well, yeah, also Warren's in it too. Are you thinking about Bring Me the Head of
Oh,
All Free-
Warren was in that, wasn't he? Yeah. I'm thinking of the one with William Holden and Ernest Borgnine.
That's The Wild Bunch.
The Wild Bunch, yes, sir. Welcome to the show, Fanta.
Hi,
Hey,
thank
Fanta.
you, Rex.
You're
Hi,
welcome.
RJ, Shadow,
Hello.
Mr. Barron. This is
Delighted.
surreal. I just wanted to jump up and say hello to you. That I admire you. I love your works. I love doing videos on your campaigns, and I
Well,
think
thank
you're
you.
an awesome human being.
I'm so, but I'm proud of my work.
Well, thank you so much, Rex, for this opportunity.
You're welcome, Fanta.
You're welcome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank
Dan,
you.
Unforgiven is on the list.
Unforgiven. What do you find fascinating about Unforgiven?
It's kind of a revisionist Western in that it undercuts your expectations of what's going to happen. But it's also very realistic in the portrait it paints of life on the far West. And it speaks to the true nature of man in that there are so many scumbags and unlikable characters in that movie that finally Clint emerges as a hero, as an anti-hero, but as a hero as well. But it has one major problem in that he undertook this project to support his minor children, which he left behind, and then they just get forgotten for the rest of the movie. What happened to the minor children?
Pale Rider? What do you think about that?
He made a lot of good Westerns, but
More straightforward, yeah. Well, play Misty for me, right?
Yeah, that's not a Western.
No, it's not a Western, but it kind of went against his type at the time, didn't it? It's like,
that was the first film he ever directed.
It was a left turn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If you want to see him play against type, watch him play a cowboy on Wagon Train when he sings.
Yeah.
I tried watching Paint My Wagon or Paint Your Wagon, and it was pretty bad.
I really like Sam Peckinpah. You know, when it comes to Westerns, you named Ride the High Country. Was that on your 10 list?
No, anywhere? It's not. But at the end, I said if this list were extended, or if I were to do it another day, that might be on the list.
Yeah, it really is a gem. Early, you know, of course, Sam directed a bunch of Gunsmoke episodes, and what I like about it is it's again, kind of like the Tom Horn movie or the one mentioned before, where the Western's kind of coming to a close. The West is coming to a close. Liberty Valance, you mentioned, and the changing times, and it kind of speaks to that because you have Randolph Hearst, who was acting.
Hearst.
Not Randolph Hearst. I'm sorry. We talked about him the other day.
Randolph Scott.
Randolph Scott.
Whatever happened to Randolph Scott?
And McRae.
Well, I'm sure he retired. And he's no longer with us. I mean, that was a long time ago.
He was really good friends, I believe, with Cary Grant.
That's true.
During their career.
I was making a Statler Brothers joke, but it didn't land well. Mike, what would you say your favorite? I'm old. What would you say your favorite Western movie era is? Would it be the older ones, the modern ones, or the Italian ones?
Well, not the Italian ones. You know, I admire Sergio Leone, but I can't enjoy a movie unless I believe it could really happen. And those movies are so stylized that never for 1 second do I think I'm in the Old West.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm all over the place. Certainly,
it was
my top 10 list is the movies I enjoy the most. And they cover the gamut. The two movies that are in my top 10 list that most people aren't familiar with are Valdez is Coming and Ulzana's Raid, both starring Burt Lancaster. Both are brilliant.
Burt Lancaster was a circus performer.
Yeah, he was. Valdez is Coming is based on an Elmore Leonard novel.
Did you enjoy The Professionals?
Oh, yeah, that's on the list. Oh, wait. No, it's not on the list, but it would be if I made the list today. Yeah, I love The Professionals. I love
he did all his own stunts, even in that.
Yeah.
Which was kind of later on in his career. From Here to Eternity, I guess, was a big boost for his career.
Brokeback Mountain, anybody?
What'd you say, RJ?
Brokeback Mountain, anybody?
No, hell no. I have not seen that rot and don't expect to.
Putting it out there.
I'm going to kick you, RJ. You can do that on Pops' channel, but not over here.
Yes, sir.
Rex, I'm going to have to jump off. I'm going to the man cave. I just want to thank you again for the opportunity. You and Shadow know I love you. RJ, it's so good to talk to you. And Mr. Barron, I'm just speechless. Thank you so
ma'am.
much for all that you do.
Thank
Always
you,
a
ma'am.
pleasure, Fanta.
Say hello to the good stuff for us, will you? And
I will.
to
And
Belmont.
Justin, yeah. Thank you, Rex. Thanks again. Love you guys. Bye.
I'm going to have to bail out too, guys. I got another interview coming up in a few minutes.
All right. Thank you for your time, Mike. Every second of
Thanks
it.
for the forum, guys.
Go
Yeah,
kill it,
you
Mike.
bet.
I'll be
Hope we
talking
can
to you
talk
soon.
with you soon.
All right.
Take care.
Mike is about to become the second campaign on Fund My Comic to cross the $10,000 barrier.
That's awesome. That's with
He's neck and neck with Little Mermaid.
Private American, right?
No, that's with Lone Star. Or
Lone Star. Pat Broderick. Yeah. A weird Western. Yeah. I kind of enjoy that.
Sorry,
you
guys,
know,
I got called away for a moment.
if it's going to be war, if it's going to be Western, I kind of like the weird twist to it.
Yeah, that's.
Oh yeah.
What kind of genre do you enjoy the most, RJ?
Well, I was all over the place, but I was going to say how much I enjoyed the book that was actually titled Weird Western Tales back in the day.
Oh, there you go.
Before it became Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I liked Jonah Hex before he became a Vertigo supernatural kind of character.
Yeah, they kind of. Yeah, I liked them better earlier.
And
I kind of like the weird tales, and then not too long ago I showed some of those old 60s, the original Suicide Squad with DC Comics, where they encountered dinosaurs, like on a dinosaur island. I like the weird twist on things, not just straight war westerns.
And I was actually okay with Jonah Hex going to the future and becoming Hex for a while, because it was clear from the beginning that it was a temporary thing. Because my favorite Jonah Hex story was probably a Brave and the Bold story with Batman.
Yeah.
And because the whole story of Jonah Hex had a beginning and an end, and everyone knew how Jonah Hex's story ends. He gets shot, and his body gets stolen by from the Undertaker, and he's stuffed. He's stuffed and put in uniform and put on display, holding his gun.
Wow!
And in modern day Gotham City, after Batman's done, whatever story is still involving Jonah Hex's past, Batman's almost down and out, and somebody bumps the stuffed body of Jonah Hex holding his gun, which has been loaded for 150 years, and it goes off and shoots the guy.
That's crazy. Wow.
That's awesome.
So, only in comic books, though.
Yep.
Yes, Carrie. It's still
hey RJ, how did you like Alien Alamo, by the way?
I don't think I saw Alien Alamo.
Graham Nolan.
Cowboys and Aliens. Oh no, the book. I have not got it.
Oh, dude, you got to check that one out. That'll be right up your alley.
Cool. Then I will.
Yeah. Now, do you like spaghetti westerns? I kind of agreed with what Mike said about spaghetti westerns.
They're okay. I mean, the only thing I can ever remember from a spaghetti western is, Clint Eastwood putting that pot-bellied stove plate up his poncho, and nobody seeing it.
And the
it
wonderful
was kind
music,
of like Captain America's shield behind the shirt. Nobody ever saw the hump.
Right. Yeah. Well, they just figured he was a hunchback.
Yeah. That poor Steve Rogers, he's been a second child all his life.
Well, really, those were the only movies that made money in Italian films. Really, I'm told.
Yeah, The Man with No Name.
The Man with No Name kind of trilogy
Hombre sin
series.
nombre.
Maybe the Trinity series might have made a little bit of money, but Leone's was the only ones really, and they made a ton of those spaghetti westerns at the time. Everybody was like, "Oh, this is the Ninja Turtle thing, so we'll jump on that," How far back do you read? Do you enjoy the simpler times of Golden Age, or
I show up on Mike Walters' channel frequently on the Friday nights when we're reading Golden Age comics out loud with voices and sound effects. And
I've seen you on
there. RJ over there all the time.
That's a load of fun, and we'll be on there next Friday, doing it again. But I've got some Golden Age reprints. I've got some Golden Age not reprints in my collection as well.
Would you like to see a Golden Age book?
Of course, I always want to see a Golden Age.
I really should have shown this to Mike, because we were talking about Americana, right? That's straight Americana there.
Oh yeah, baby.
World's
That's
Finest
beautiful.
number 6. It's a cardboard cover. That's what's unusual. It's probably my only cardboard cover book, just about. But yeah, that's patriotic times, war times.
Yeah.
Feel
Well, that's
feel
what I
like
used to
we're
always
in
say
a
about.
huh?
That's what I used to say about Captain America all the time was, but reading him in the 70s and the 80s, I was like, Captain America doesn't work if he doesn't have a war. Because that's his whole shtick. And I thought for sure after 9/11, that Marvel would take advantage of him as as a war
Sort of
propaganda tool.
anti-terrorist.
Yeah,
Anti-terrorist.
just to tell propaganda stories again. But
Yeah.
We were already entering the era of we can't do that. It's not
Yeah.
proper.
Too controversial because it would look bad on a religion, right? I think.
Yeah,
was
exactly.
Main touchstone, the main pushing point on that. I would have said, that's probably the greatest threat. I didn't get to ask that, Mike, with Mike, and I didn't mean to get too political. I know Mike knows where the cutoff point is. Hopefully, we all do, so we don't get the channel struck. But it's like we are under a cloud of censorship nowadays, isn't it, RJ?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, a cloud.
Yeah, more like a
it-
storm.
It's a
Yeah,
storm.
like a hurricane,
I
a
posted the
tropical
other day.
depression.
Tyranny's not coming.
Is that
It's
how
here.
we fight back? Is support like Shadowhawk does, and he also does other creative things. But
Yeah.
is that it? Take back the culture, as
Support
Mike
That's all we
things you
can
love
do,
and
man,
support
is
them
try.
heavily. As long as something that you love is still being produced, support it.
Yeah, you have to, because if you don't, it's gonna die, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
What's the main threat to America nowadays, RJ? Do you think? I would have said Islam at one point.
Yeah, but that was a more understandable threat because it was external.
This is
and
more
there was, this
subversive.
threat of violence. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the calls are coming from within the house.
Yeah.
That's scary. Yeah.
So it's
I know
it's subversion of the government.
horror movies have used that, but that really is scary when just the thought of an intruder being in your house from within.
Well, it's
that's
like you
something-
mentioned earlier with Mike, right? It's the rot from within, man.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's really.
I just wonder what the most effective thing everyone can do.
Well, you used to say vote, but
Yeah.
the trust in that process has eroded to where nobody thinks it works anymore.
Right.
I mean, I still vote. I don't know if it's doing them any good, but I try.
Well, I mean, back when it was considered a civic duty, right? If you were a good citizen, you voted.
I still do. I mean, to me, if you're not voting, you can't complain.
Right. But
you can't sit there and bitch and whine about I don't like my government, but you're not willing to vote. Well, I'm sorry.
But there's a strong belief now that the voting process is just
well, yeah,
a show.
And that's the problem, is because
Yeah.
it's been very much shown to be not as foolproof as we thought it was.
Yeah, people finding baskets and bales of ballots that were never counted, or people delivering baskets and bales of ballots that are late, but we're going to count them anyway now.
That's
just
that's
all
the
happened
worst
to go
part.
one direction. It's like it's happening right in front of our eyes, and we're being told, no, it's not.
No,
Do you like our
not
new
seeing-
governor?
you're not seeing what you're seeing.
Do you like our new governor?
I
RJ?
haven't paid any attention to her.
Uh-huh.
I've heard, a few of the laws that she's been wanting to do because they happen to intersect with the month of June and some of the activities that go with that. But other than that, it really hasn't affected me because I'm still more of in Arkansas on a visa, so to speak, because my primary resident is still in Illinois.
Right. You said when you had to get your driver's license, you had to go back up there. to get it right.
And I've got a paper copy of it right now because they didn't give me the plastic there. They said, "We'll mail you the plastic." When I'm like, okay, so I've got to go back, to the residence and get it off the counter when I get home. But right now I just got this folded up photostatic paper, which I'll tell you what, the Arkansas State Troopers didn't know how to handle.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Because I had to show it to them recently.
They didn't catch you speeding, did they?
They caught me speeding. I didn't
Yeah.
know I was speeding. They kind of knew that I didn't know I was speeding. I got a verbal warning because they couldn't
Yeah.
process the license. But I was like, it looked like that hill got you there. You're coming down the hill fast. It was a steep hill coming out of Berryville there. And I was like, yeah. Plus, I've got like 800 pounds of books in my trunk because I was carrying them away from a convention. And he's like, yeah, the weight and the downhill slope got you.
What's the population over there at where you're at? Are you directly in the tourist trap of Eureka Springs?
I'm in the tourist trap of Holiday Island, which broke away from Eureka Springs 3 years ago.
Okay.
So I would
So you
say
don't-
we have 2,300 people.
So you don't get caught up in all the touristy going and coming, or do you?
I don't, because Eureka Springs is if you go into Eureka Springs on a Friday or a Saturday, you're going to drive slow because there's just the main drag is just restaurants and shops
And cliff faces and small
Yeah.
streets, right?
very
Yeah.
much so, and no parking. I mean, if you want to shop in Eureka Springs, you're going to have to park in a lot and pay $5 for it. I went to get my hair cut there once, and I parked in a free parking spot about 3/4 of a mile down by where the little railroad station is, and walked in the hot weather. And I asked the barber, like, "Don't you have parking for customers?" She's like, "Just park over there." I'm like, "It's $5 to park over there." And he's like, "Don't give him any money. He makes enough money off the restaurant." I was like, "Okay, so that's the attitude it is in town, I guess."
Yeah, it's a different place altogether, isn't it?
It's
Eureka-
interesting. Well, yeah,
once-
Eureka Springs is there's a lot of rainbows in Eureka. It's I almost said it was a place. I told somebody says it's full of retired hippies, and I was correct. They're like, "Oh, they're not all retired. Some of them are still practicing."
Well, how did you wind up there from Illinois?
COVID caused the place I was working as a contractor to not renew contracts, and I started looking around for another job. And one in Arkansas said, "You want to work here?" I'm like, "I want to work." so
Yeah.
I came here. Now, at the time, the requirement was that you be local to the job. And now, 2 years later, yeah, you know what? If you wanted to go back to Illinois, you could. You work from anywhere. You're working from home all the time anyway, so you don't have to come in.
You enjoy it? The
I do.
humidity and the mosquitoes?
Well, I've been in Arkansas before, so I knew what I was going to get.
Yeah.
Summer starts in April and it goes through October, and it's 102 every day. I used to work in North Little Rock for 5 years. Lived in Conway.
I was born in North Little Rock at St. Vincent's.
Did you ever did you spend any time in North Little Rock as a teenager or an adult?
No, actually, I didn't grow up there. I was adopted, so I came up here to Jonesboro and been up here all my life, pretty much in this
Okay.
area.
I just didn't know if you ever got a chance to visit the comic book store there.
I did one in North Little Rock, I think, yeah, or at
Yeah.
least drove by it. I don't know if I visited
Yeah,
any.
that would have been Michael Tierney's shop. The comic book store, collector's edition was that one, I believe.
The direct market killed comics in the 80s, very
Oh, yeah.
quickly. I mean,
Well-
it took spinner racks out, the distribution changed. How do we change distribution to make it
wasn't
better?
it wasn't the direct market really,
Mhm.
because I've got plenty of books that have both barcodes on them and blank squares that were direct market releases, because there was a direct market release, but there was still a spinner rack release and magazine distribution going on for a long time. So that was in parallel, and these places had returnability still because they were dealing with the magazine distribution places. What killed the non-direct market comics is the comic industry itself, because we started we started creating more mature product, and nobody wanted to rate anything. There was, in fact, was a huge argument until we got ratings on them now, but there was a huge argument at the time that we weren't going to rate stuff.
No,
what
no,
happened-
what? Back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s,
late 80s,
What?
early 90s.
Yeah.
What happened was there was an issue of Spawn that had child abuse scenes in it, and it got bought at a Walmart for the child of someone who was a Walton. And they read what was in their stores and said, do you realize what we're selling in our stores? And when Walmart stops carrying a product, it's a dead product. So Walmart quit carrying the comic books that were the non-direct market stuff, and there was no more point in the magazine companies distributing them.
Interesting. I did not know that aspect of it.
Yeah, so it was the writers and creators' desire and the publishers' desire to appeal to non-children, because Watchmen and Dark Knight made money, so they're like, well, let's make money with everything. We'll just make everything this thing, rather than moderation in all things.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk to Mike about the Punisher, maybe at a future time, but he wrote the Punisher for like 5 years.
I wanted to ask him about that and let him go.
Yeah. Well, I knew Mike wouldn't be here too long. He doesn't let grass grow under his feet too long.
Yeah, he don't hang too long.
Yeah.
Well, Mike's in a position now to let Private American take over the gap that the Punisher has left behind.
Yeah, he is.
Absolutely. And we probably need to just at least show that project on Fund My Comic.
Yeah.
Have it brought up here and watch that trailer.
And actually let Mike do it, because he'll do a much better job than Marvel.
Yes, it's choppy, but it's only on this channel that I know of.
America's southern border has become a war zone. Human traffickers, drug smugglers, and terrorists flow across the Rio Grande with impunity, secure in the knowledge that no one will stop them. A distant federal government lectures Americans on their privilege while punishing overworked Border Patrol agents who were helpless to stem the tidal wave of invaders and determined migrants. Second-generation Cuban-American Marcos Zamora is a military vet, more patriotic than most Americans. No longer able to ignore the chaos at his doorstep, he acts. Joined by his best friend Gus, they hit the border every night, saving lives while stopping violent drug cartels and other opportunists. The government reacts with fury at Marcos' attempts to preserve American sovereignty, deploying the full might of their enforcement agencies. But Marcos understands that the only thing the rich and powerful fear is bad publicity, and he records every encounter. Whoever he is, this Private American must be stopped. Illustrated by Richard Bonk and written by Eisner winner Mike Barron, Private American is his version of Captain America, and maybe a little Punisher, taking part in this ongoing, violent, and very real battle of good versus evil in the war for American sovereignty. Grab your copy at theprivateamerican.com.
We have a secure border, and that is a priority for our administration.
Well, I know that fills me with a lot of confidence that our vice president said that.
Hey, RJ, do you know who did the voiceover on that?
I do not. I've talked with Chris Brawley about that before. It's sounds like the same guy who did the Lone Star voiceover.
Yeah,
and he sounds familiar.
Bronze
he sounds
Boy.
like the guy who used to do Swamp People. He's like, meanwhile, over in Pierre Park, Troy's scouting the
Yeah.
skiff.
He almost sounds like what's his name, Sam Elliott, a little bit.
Yeah, he does.
But he's got a great voice for voiceover stuff.
Well, Chris has got the connections with his video production company.
Oh, okay.
He can get some good voice actors.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of actors go in there. Like we were talking about Clancy, that was in Highlander. That's the seminal movie. The first time that I saw Clancy as the bad guy in Highlander, and then of
Oh,
course
yeah.
he did Starship Troopers. I kind of remember him in that, playing the tough sergeant. But he's done a lot of voice work, and George Lisenby, that was came after Sean Connery as James Bond. He's done some work for DC and on cartoons and things. And were you a big cartoon guy, RJ, growing up? I mean,
Oh yes. Oh,
Yeah.
so like when I grew up, my parents did not have a television most of the time
mhm.
for religious reasons, because it would send you to hell for watching it.
Oh,
no
my
doubt.
God.
I was raised United Pentecostal. And that was one of their tenets that I could not find in the Bible, but it fell under that set no evil thing before thine eye thing.
Yeah. Right.
So every Friday night, I would stay over at my grandmother's house for the night, who had nothing to do with that religion at all. And she had a great big floor console television. And
Nice.
I would be there with my comic books, open to the center spread in the fall, letting me know what the new shows were going to be. And I planned my whole morning around what was on all three of the different channels on Saturday.
Was it
Yeah.
color or black and white?
It was a color TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I had that going for me. But yeah, I was.
Give us an example, RJ. What kind of cartoons were you watching? Those
And
mornings?
if it had a superhero in it, I was watching it. I mean, I was watching the Super Friends. Let me give
Okay.
you a sample of
You
what I
gotta
was
be right,
watching here.
right around mine and Rex's age, somewhere in there. Maybe
I'm
a few
56.
Yeah, well, yeah, so am I. Rex is
Young
a
kid.
year old.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here's
You're younger.
the thing about being old and single. You can buy what you want,
Yeah.
There you
and
go.
you don't have to
Yeah.
ask anybody about it. So I'm buying the things that I used to watch, and I'm also buying adult stuff. So I'm not pulling that stuff out.
Mama.
No, I'm kidding.
No,
Not really.
Transformers wasn't on until the 80s. Tree Goblin.
Freaking
We're going way back. Mighty Mouse.
kids over here.
Oh, Butch Cassidy and the Sun.
Butch
Now that's
Cassidy.
70s there. Hanna-Barbera.
That's 70s. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
Wow.
Oh, yeah. That's 70s. Amazing Charlie Chan.
Amazing Chan. And of course the pinnacle.
Oh,
Johnny Quest. Oh, yes.
Is that the
That's good
unedited?
stuff.
That's I hope it's unedited. It's the complete original series on Blu-ray.
Blu-ray, yeah. It might
Nice.
say on there, RJ, when I first bought it from Hanna-Barbera, it had been edited, and then they released the Blu-ray, which is not censored.
I didn't know what they would have had to censor in the first place. But,
Well, you know, one of the lizard guys falls, and
Well-
Johnny's like talking smack to him when he falls to his death and things like that. They did edit some out, and I said, well, that's crap. So I had to buy it twice to get the unedited version that I
unedited.
watched
I mean, it's
as a kid.
way better than Venture Brothers or anything that's being produced today on
Yeah.
Adult Swim and stuff.
Oh, I think it's probably the greatest as far as action adventure and with the art that's in there. Although I know it's it looks crude to us today's standards, but I don't think anybody's ever done anything better than Johnny Quest. Of course, I like Herculoids, Birdman.
All that
Herculoid.
stuff. They did the thing for
The
a
thing
while.
ring with the ring.
Yeah.
The rocks.
And it was-
yeah.
And it was
Oh,
the
yeah.
weirdest thing, because if you knew the Fantastic Four, you're like, what does that have to do with anything? Because in their version, Ben Grimm had
Was a
become
kid.
the thing,
Yeah.
and you don't find out how. And this scientist gives him this 2-set ring here, one on each hand. He can go like this, thing ring, do your thing, smack them together, because it gives kids something to play.
Yeah.
And then he
right.
returned back to Ben Grimm, but as a teenager, which was also not his real form.
Yeah, like, totally not. Yeah.
So you looking back on it now, you've got, wow, this adult man is either a Rocky Monster or a teenage kid
In
with a
shorts.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In shorts, and
is
somehow he would
crazy.
have his clothes back on when he.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The teenage kid, which is not him, has a teenage girlfriend. I'm
Here-
like, we didn't think this one through.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they ever made 2 thing rings that you could put together, but that would have been cool.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you would have had kids doing this all day long. Kind of like
Yeah.
Wonder Twin Powers activate. Form of an icicle.
Bucket of
And it
water.
was like,
That was always the most
Yeah.
useless.
A bucket of
There was
well, I
the
mean, you know, she could turn into a pterodactyl and fly. Her and
he
Gleek
could turn
the
into water.
monkey, yeah,
But
in a pail of water. You
and
know,
bucket
where's
of
He
the
got
water.
pail
carried
come
around in a
from?
bucket.
They should have had
The
the
monkey could
super
ride in the bucket.
friend symbol on the side of the pail of water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that would have been good branding.
And then there was who was the guy who turned into a motorcycle?
Ooh,
It was a cartoon. It was like he
Yeah.
would just stretch his arms out and the wheel would come out and it might
was that a
maybe
Hanna
full-
Barbera?
maybe a full car. It might have been Sid and Marty Croft.
Well, you know, there
Uh,
was
Yeah,
Filmation
remember,
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. Filmation cartoons were the best. I got to talk with Lou Scheimer. He's on our channel.
Oh, you did?
It's an audio interview only. Made him cry, actually, at one
Wow.
point during the interview because
Carrie, you starting that
Yeah.
again?
Did
We were
you know
talking
he
about-
had a very early connection? One of the big employees of his was Ted Knight, that was on the
yes.
Marathon.
Oh, he tells the story of how Elliot S. Magan was going to visit them. They didn't have a studio, a client yet. They had a company with no employees, and Elliot S. Magan was coming to have them do the Superman shorts. So they panicked. He and I can't remember the name of his partner now.
Oh, the director, yeah.
Yeah. But they hired people to pretend to be
To pretend,
Uh,
because that was
animals.
their first big thing. I mean, the guy
Yeah.
from DC came and they were like, "Can you do this for $35,000?" And they didn't know if they could or not, but they were
they said yes.
destitute, and broke at that time. They were like, "Sure, we can do it." They didn't
And
know
in
if they could do
Fantastic
it or
Four
not.
fashion, in true Fantastic Four fashion, the receptionist was a mannequin, and Magan just walked right past it without looking. But Ted Knight was one of those actors, and Lou had told him, says like, okay, so when we get to this point here, we're going to show him something, and he's going to take a look at it, and I want you to come up to me and say, say line says, Lou, we're running out of acetate in the back storeroom. Something like that. I don't know what the exact thing was. I don't think Lou knew at the time either.
Right.
But what really happened was that Elliot walked past, looked at it, and kept walking. And Ted Knight didn't get to say his line, so he chased them down so he could say his line.
He used to do the Joker voice in the old
the Scooby-Doo
Batman
Batman
Adventures
Joker.
of the late 60s for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That
he
was a
was
Mike
big
in
one.
Pete says Turbo Teen turned into a car though, not a motor.
That was him. Yes, he turned
Turbo
into a
Teen.
car. There was also one called Wonder Wheels, and I think that was a Sid and Marty Croft live action one.
Well, there was a Dune buggy,
I remember
right?
Speed Buggy.
Speaking
There was
Dune
Speed Buggy,
Speed Buggy.
Wonder Wheels, Turbo
Yeah.
Team, Automan.
Automan, yeah.
Yeah, just I mean, you know, if it flew, swam, ran, they did it. Scheimer said,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
but their biggest moneymaker was later in the early '80s, He-Man,
Because
Yeah.
the toy line.
the
Mhm.
big
Line.
toy line. Yeah, I guess they get a percentage of that, huh?
I would guess so. Yeah, because they did He-Man and then they did She-Ra.
Yeah, because I mean,
then
whoever
that
made the
helps with
toys had to
advertisers,
license it,
too,
so-
right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what caused the entire congressional hearing on educational television. Was somebody looked at He-Man and Transformers, and it's like, these are 30-minute advertisements for product that aren't being paid for. And that's when they started telling television stations that X percentage of your airtime, if you want to keep your FCC license, has to be educational.
You know, it was
Mhm.
I don't know if you know this, but it was Ted Kennedy's legislation in the 60s that he pushed for about the violence in cartoons and everything that just killed things like Johnny Quest and Herculoids and all that great stuff that was going
And
on
yet
in
that
the
coyote
60s,
could blow himself up with dynamite every Saturday morning.
and drop an
Yeah.
anvil on his head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Which was
'cause it
great
Warner
stuff.
Brothers. They were big enough to, survive.
Yeah. They're like, oh, how cute. There's a law.
Mhm. Well, they
Well-
just, I mean, they're in California. You just buy your local politicians, dude. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it was really the Filmation Aquaman cartoon that introduced me long before. What was interesting was in the early 90s when at Blockbuster Video or a place like that, right? where you had the VHS tapes. I know nobody knows what that is. It's kind of like the 8-track, but now we're really going back there. But it was when those Marvels came out, those old Marvel cartoons, you know, Captain America, Submariner,
yes.
Iron Man. You know, the actor that was the dean in Animal House, he did a lot of voice acting for Marvel in the 60s for those. He was the voice of Tony Stark. I forget the actor's name, but he was the dean in Animal House. That's what I always remember him from. He's done a lot of great acting. Yeah, it was Aquaman that when I rented those things at Blockbuster, it's like, I've seen this before, because I might not remember the particulars, but I remember the openers and the opening songs. There were so many great opening songs. Maybe not for the. I always thought even back then the Marvels were lifted straight from the panels,
And
And they
if
just
you know-
kind of did a Clutch Cargo thing on the lips.
Yeah, Clutch Cargo with just the lips. Clutch Cargo. I actually have some of those. It had for people who don't know, had a cutout, and everything was animated except they had live lips. It was weird looking.
Very
right?
weird.
Yeah. I mean, to look at it as an adult, as a kid, I thought it was weird too, but I, kind of accepted it and watched it. It's
John
just
Vernon.
something different. They did in the Three Stooges had live action, would cut to a cartoon and then go
Yep.
back to live action at the end of the show. So they were doing all kinds of different stuff in cartoons back
It was
then.
it was a fun time. It's and then we started getting live action shows for kids. Remember we had Shazam and Isis.
Oh yeah. They I just purchased I guess last year the complete Isis. She never throws a punch. She predates the Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman, by a month. I think she's the oldest
really,
live action star. Yeah, and it was all about ecological issues back then.
Yeah.
Save the planet.
what
Yeah,
did she
because there
have,
was,
like wind powers or something? Like she would
Yeah,
knock
oh,
She
Denver
can
wind
fly.
would blow on high, lift me now so I can
Yeah.
fly.
Okay,
She
had
was a
elemental powers.
beauty, RJ.
I
we
was.
did.
I think I
Yeah.
was like, God, 9, 10.
And
when
Linda
that
Carter was
on,
my
something
jaw
like
was
that.
down to here.
I've got a photo of Linda Carter framed on my wall over here from Apocalypse Now. No, Linda Carter was not in Apocalypse Now, but she was going to be in Apocalypse Now. She was going to be
Oh.
Miss May, if you've seen the movie. And
Oh.
and
Oh
they
yeah,
had
yeah.
they had done the props for her scene, including the Playboy centerfold for the fake issue of Playboy. And then of course she got, the show was hit with production problems. It just dragged on and on. She's in California during a hurricane. They offer her Wonder Woman. She calls up, Kubrick and says, "Hey, yeah, I can't do it. You're gonna have to recast me." Goes on
Yeah,
to do
love
Wonder Woman, and they recast Miss May. But the photo that she did for the fake Playboy issue with her topless scene
Wow.
exists. And no,
Oh
I
yeah,
won't
I
show
have
it to you on
seen
screen.
that. I forgot about it. I've seen that actually.
Yeah.
I still want to see her at a convention and see if I can
When
get her to sign.
She's worn
She's
some
still
sheer
holding
stuff.
up pretty
So
well. Last I saw.
yeah, it's sad
Yeah.
that she's kind of went the liberal bent on things of late.
Well,
you know,
yeah.
from what I
Well,
see. Is it just
I try to ignore that when it comes to a beautiful woman. Just
well,
don't
you know, I don't know. That kind of jades me. I don't know.
we'll get
Um,
along fine if you just don't talk, honey.
Mighty
don't
Geek
talk.
is correct. Filmation is responsible for Tarzan, Lone Ranger, and Zorro, and even Fat Albert.
Yeah, in fact, we talked. I feel like
Hey
he
Rex,
was
Intense Webs is asking
friend.
for a link.
send
Okay.
a link. We talked about Star Trek, the animated series. Filmation did that, and that was their first Emmy.
Yes,
And he-
it
you
was.
know, he-
They're
he's
only
like-
Emmy for Star Trek.
Yeah, he said, I don't begrudge the Emmy, but I felt that Fat Albert deserved it more for the work that they were doing to highlight inner city youth and to attract that audience and make something for that audience. And he's like, Bill Cosby told him, don't make a big deal out of Fat Albert. Nobody's going to watch it. It's about black inner city kids. It's not going to appeal to anybody, and it appealed to everybody.
Oh,
And
it's
that's
very
when I
loud.
told him. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's when I told him, it's like, I was 45 years old and going in for my first surgery ever. First time I'd ever been hospitalized for surgery. And I told him, it's like, they're wheeling me down the hallway here and I'm not knowing what to do. And I said, in the back of my head, Fat Albert and the Junkyard Kids are sitting there singing their little song
I
with
put
their
it in the
drums up.
chat, Webb.
And they're singing, don't be scared at a hospital. And that's when Lou kind of choked up that, that he's like, I had no idea that something that I put into a kid's cartoon would stick with somebody through their entire life and come back when they were an adult to, provide something to hold on to.
Well, you had the Jackson 5. It was early black representation, wasn't it, on TV that made
very much so.
a lot of black and brown kids feel better about themselves.
I feel like we were more integrated back in the 70s than we are in 2020.
Sorry, buddy.
Right here's the link, Webbs. I put it right in the chat. So just jump on.
Man, anybody can grab it.
He was just playing.
Anybody can grab it. That doesn't mean I'll let you on.
Oh, he wants to link to the
out
photo.
of here.
He wants to link
talk
to the
about
photo.
a little bit of the charity work you've done, RJ. And I will be right back.
Charity work?
Well, now I remember Iron Shadow.
We
We participated in one of your auctions for comics for kids.
Yeah. Last
yeah.
February, we did do an auction for comics for kids. We should do that again sometime. I should have them on again. I know that we're
dude,
going
that'd
to
be
be
great.
we're going to be doing when 3PO is in town and we start packaging up his book. There's going to be a good portion of those that do get sent to Comics for Kids. So we'll be
Excellent.
sending those off to cancer wards for kids there.
That's great,
but-
man.
Yeah, that was fun. I did enjoy having that auction.
Yeah.
and-
Rex and I actually had our first bidding war, I think, in that auction.
Yeah, you were probably buying it for each other.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So we had some. I was glad that we had people who would volunteer to come on as panelists and donate from their own collections, artwork and
that's
such.
Mhm.
Uh,
That's a beautiful thing, man. I'd love to participate again, next time. So if you
Absolutely,
can,
we'll do something again sometime. I mean, it didn't end up being like a CG art auction night, which
No, that's
would have
all right,
been
though.
something.
No, because I mean, we also got exposed to a lot of different independent people, and
That was the
uh,
that was
I ended
another
up with a
benefit
couple of
of it.
really cool figures out of it, man, that I had no idea I was gonna end up with. So,
They've
and I'm a
They put
sucker
out-
for the toys. So
yeah. Have you seen the new super? Are they the Superpowers figures? McFarlane is reproducing the DC Superpowers figures.
yeah, dude, I've been very disappointed with McFarlane lately.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
was.
I
was
gotta
about
tell
to
you,
get-
bro. I got my first Cyberfrog toy in yesterday.
Yeah.
I can't stop playing with this thing. It's so posable and crazy. I'm gonna become one of them toy photographers here soon, dude. It's nuts.
If you want to have real fun with it, if it's that posable, go into stop motion animation with it.
Oh, dude, yeah. I've been thinking about that too. I've been a Ray Harryhausen fan since I was like knee high to a grasshopper. So
I did that with my son when he was like 8. I just said we put my phone on a little tripod and we built something in Lego, and I was like, now just move it just a little bit. We take another picture, and we just move it just a little bit. We took another picture,
yeah,
and he's like, so what's this
Oh.
doing? I'm like, well, we put them together and I just made a slideshow out of them and said, okay, let's automate this thing to show one picture every 1/24th of a second duration.
Yeah.
And he's like, we made a cartoon. I'm like, yeah, we made a cartoon.
it's cool. Yeah. I used to do little flip book animations like in the corners of all my notebooks when I was in
Oh, yeah,
school,
little
like
stick man
from
dancing.
5th grade through like 8th grade. I used to do the Flash and shit, just like running, like Carmen Infantino style, where it had all the
Oh,
little,
sweet.
yeah, where the what do you call it? The after images, the tracers.
Yeah.
When you just flip the corner of my book and you'd see him just run and jump over something, phase through a wall.
Yeah, flip books are cool. People would make those in in school, right? Like in junior high or something.
Oh yeah, I had
Early.
kids buying them. They'd be like, "Oh, that's so cool. Make me one." To put together
Oh
a
yeah.
little
Now it's
inch
like they make
or inch by
slime.
an inch.
You
Yeah.
know,
Oh, my
kids.
daughter's into that. My youngest, she like does all that weird slime stuff. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay,
Oh yeah,
whatever.
they'll make the slime and sell it or trade it for something. I mean, kind of
Mhm.
what we did as kids, different things.
Yeah, a
Uh,
couple of years back,
in
it
it.
was the littlest pet shop things. My
did you ever get any of the Scholastic news magazines like Smash, Dynamite, Banana?
I
Yeah,
remember them. I didn't get
I
them.
those
think I might have got a
actually,
couple of those. They were like the music, like pop magazines,
at
but they were
first, they
Scholastic.
actually had cartoons. I mean, they had like reprints. That's where I first saw Fantastic Four #1.
Oh wow.
Where Lex Luthor loses his hair in the old Superboy story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thor when he got his origin story. So it was kind of like the very early Dynamites had that in there, and I loved it. I guess those were some of my first exposure to comic characters,
I
mainstream
love that
comics.
Lex Luthor's lifelong motivation against Superman is that he lost his hair.
Painful. Yes. That was great. It's like
That's the best origin story, man.
You
they
know,
were best friends up until that fire.
you
Yeah,
know that
damn
exposure.
Superboy and his super breath. If he wouldn't have put that fire out, I'd still have my hair.
Yeah, right, and then you just see it floating down. He's like all bald, just slick bald.
Silver Age Superboy was some of the best stuff because they were just
Oh
making
god,
it up
that
as they
stuff
went
was
along.
I
it was
read a
great.
lot
It
of
was
it in the
like so
80s because
entertaining.
of the backup story, the Dial H for Heroes. I love Dial H for Hero,
Yeah,
the original
they were cool.
60s and especially the 80s where fans could create a character and have it published with their name and where they lived in the
That was the
panels.
coolest stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's probably Jim Shooter writing that right at that time. He was like
I'm not
13 or 14 years old. He started writing the Fatal Five there.
Yeah, this is
Oh
the
yeah.
death of Pharaoh lad in this episode.
Oh, yeah, that's where he dies with the Sun Eater, right?
Yep, and this is the one where Triplicate Girl becomes Duo Damsel.
Just send those to me, RJ. I
Oh,
need
where they
those
kill
in
off
my
one of
collection.
her.
Just nail them right
He
up.
says, "I will if you send me that World's Finest."
Yeah, I'll trade you both of them for that. 2 for 1 deal. What
Yeah,
a deal, right?
yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah,
And then
that sounds like an RJ deal to me.
and of course, even the Kurt Schaffenberger Superboys were fun reads.
Oh yeah, now that's the
that's
80s I was talking
That's
about.
the 80s.
Yeah,
And-
yeah.
And I got one here from our good buddies at Silverline. Not necessarily Silverline now, but that they worked at Malibu. The ferret. Now look at the edges on the ferret. here.
Yeah. Oh, die cut. Yeah.
Oh, dude, yeah, I got that one. Love that book.
Neil Adams in Continuity did one too. Crazy Man #1. That was die
I remember
cut.
Crazy Man.
Yeah, there's another ferret where it's die cut clear through the middle of the book, and he's got a bullet hole in his chest. Have you
Well,
seen
now
that
that's
one, RJ?
that's Protectors, where he's like bleeding.
Yeah, but it's still the ferret.
And I believe that was an actual bullet hole. Or maybe I'm thinking of another title, but there was one title
I
where they
have
got
it.
the
It's
books
still
and they
lodged
literally
in my
shotgun
head.
blasted them.
Really? No. I've got one of them. It doesn't look like it's an actual bullet hole, dude. It's
It might
very
not be
clean
that one,
cut.
but somebody did it.
That's pretty cool.
Well, yeah.
I think that would
I
like
don't think it would
that
be
would
that
damage
clean.
your book a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would blow it out the bag.
Yeah,
It might have been a 22, but they shot
that
it.
was die cut.
Yeah, even so though, man, 22 does a job on paper.
But a trick cover, RJ, just doesn't do it for me. It has to have some good guts to it. It has to have a good story. I think that's what people are looking for.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to have a good story. You got to have good art. I mean, it's got to draw the reader in. That's the
Check
whole
this
point.
out, RJ. That's autographed by Eric Larson and just a great sort of golden age style cover.
Oh yeah.
It's even
Now, is that-
distressed.
That's cool.
See there,
dude.
it's even distressed a little. It's like flaked up where you can like the
Mhm.
paper's painted on or the edges are abraded just a little bit. I wish they had actually distressed it more, but
What was that? A variant cover for one of the Savage Dragons?
it may be the main cover. I don't know, but it was
Daredevil in
Oh,
it, or
it
not
must have
Daredevil.
been when I was out of it, dude.
yeah,
Probably knew it.
2017. It's really not. Well, he signed it in 2017. It's 2013 book. Yeah, you would have been out
Okay,
of
yeah,
college.
yeah. I
You
had
missed a
no
lot,
idea.
and I did too. But
There's a few things that I regret, but other than that, most of it, I don't miss.
Machine Man, Barry
missing.
Windsor Smith, early 80s.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that!
Yes.
Now you're cooking, RJ.
I had. Oh, I'll have to find the picture here. I've got a picture of me at 17
Oh gosh, with hair.
Oh,
I mean,
with hair. Yeah.
yeah, not such a high forehead. You still got hair.
17.
You're too young to be a hippie, RJ. I don't know who you're trying to fool with that.
Well,
You
dude,
know,
I
it's,
had some long ass hair when I was a kid.
Yeah,
oh,
he
you want
had
to see
shoulder length.
long ass hair?
Welcome,
Okay, hang on.
Dude,
finally, Mighty
mine was
Geek.
almost down to my belt line on the back.
What's up?
I backed that draw stream up again. I keep backing it up till I get. I'll probably do one, but it'll be late tonight after I get in. I do need to get.
Oh, by the way, Rex, what happened last night?
That's what I'm saying. I backed it up to tonight. Yeah, I just had it
It's just
scheduled.
postponed, man. That's all.
It got postponed.
Yeah.
There,
Wow,
there's hair.
look at there.
Business in the front.
Mullet.
Party in the
Business
back.
in the front and the party in the back.
1991.
1991. Wow.
Yep.
Damn.
A long
Yeah.
time ago.
Sounds
You
about
guys
right.
remember?
Dude, I'm
You guys
starting to
remember
see those
Superman's
again now,
mullet?
which is crazy.
Yeah, I remember Mullet Superman.
Yeah,
Yes.
after he came back
Oh, that's
from the
right. They
dead.
did do mullet Superman for a minute.
Well, he'd been in the grave for a while. I guess it made sense,
And that was
right?
right
Yeah.
about the time I quit reading comics. So it makes sense.
Now, RJ, maybe you haven't seen this, but Eric and Boyd in the chat, he was in there earlier. I don't know if he still is. Golden Era Comics presents Golden Era number 5, first appearance of his character, Mr. Muck. There, you can
Oh.
get that. Link is down in the description. First appearance of Mr. Muck and Crimson Wizard here, the villain. Some Golden Age looking goodness there. If anybody's interested, you can find that link down in the description. What's your favorite era of comics, RJ? Would you say a Bronze Age, Copper?
Bronze Age. Bronze Age.
Yeah.
Well, hold on now. When's Bronze Age? Because I don't include the 90s. The 90s
Bronze
is when I
is
started
70s.
falling in love.
Bronze is 70s, early 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 70s and 80s. That's my jam.
Who's your
I'm,
favorite?
I'm looking for a particular picture here, and I've
Who's
got
your favorite
2 of them.
artist?
I can't pick one.
All right,
they
Tell me
go-
about it.
top
I
5.
mean, you know,
Top 5.
George Perez,
Yeah.
Jose Luis Garcia Lopez,
Oh yeah.
Mac Raboy,
Oh yeah. From the Golden Age.
yeah,
Green Llama.
Wally Wood,
Wally Wood.
Oh yeah.
Mac Raboy. If you want to see good Mac Raboy, look at the covers for Captain Marvel Jr.
Oh yeah.
Ooh
Victory
yeah.
for victory. Hell yeah.
Nobody's touching the guy yet.
Yeah.
In the comic.
Not even Lou Fine.
Lou Fine, yeah.
Yeah.
But Kurt Swan.
Kurt Swan.
Kurt Swan was consistent. Kurt Swan and Jim Aparo, they weren't producing, the Mona Lisa, but
Yeah. But they were
they were consistent journeymen in every single panel.
Do you know how long Kurt Swan? I've wondered this. I know it was over 30 years. How long did he draw Superman?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay. I know it was over 30
Oh.
years.
It was over 30 years. I know that.
I just wondered how long, actually.
Like
Kurt.
exactly, I couldn't say.
Couldn't tell you.
Probably till he passed away. I mean, he was on.
Careful, baby.
He was that guy that made you wonder Will anyone else ever be able to draw Superman?
You working on a logo, Mighty Geek?
I'm working on an alternate cover.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna try
you
my hand at a wraparound.
What are you shooting for a release of your project, and how are you going to release it?
Well, what am I shooting for?
Yeah, you shooting
thought
for
I'd go-
100% done or what?
What I'm shooting for is a minimum of 50 and a maximum of 100 issues sold.
Okay,
I'm not asking for much.
right.
No, but Rex is saying before you
because
launch,
of the-
like 50% done, 75, all the way done before launch time, or what's your?
I plan to be all the way done before launch.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you are
Yeah.
going to do a crowdfunder.
Yeah.
You're going to do it on Fund My Comic or what platform?
More than likely fund my comic.
Yeah.
Seems to be the place to be.
Yeah. Because I like the martial arts comics of the 70s, late 60s, early, and through the 70s.
Right.
Those are fun.
Are you a big Bruce
Most
Lee
of-
fan
Oh, yeah.
during the time? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of,
And I've
one
seen
you
all.
didn't show, RJ, was Hong Kong Phooey.
Yeah, I know.
Number one
I love
super
Hong Kong.
guy.
I'm gonna get that one. This is the picture I was looking for. This is from my high school yearbook,
Wow.
1985.
Look at them burns, man.
Super guy.
Yeah, I know. So this is because George Perez made Jericho look cool, and I thought, yeah, I could do that.
Cool, man.
Wow.
George
Now, Keith-
Perez made most characters look cool.
Yeah, he made
Wow,
everybody
look
look
at
cool.
that.
I wanted
First,
Nightwing's swoopy hair, but look at the
if you
walls.
look right in front of his face there, you have the first-
That's what I've been looking at, RJ. Yeah, hell yeah.
first appearance of the Black Spider-Man in Secret Wars.
I need to
Yeah.
make it bigger somehow.
Yeah.
Hold on.
And then you have Teen Titans behind you, and
Oh.
that's his pencil work that wasn't inked,
Machine
but
Man.
was colored over.
Bunch of Secret Wars
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, and you got the
Yeah, I
Barry
got the
Windsor
whole
Smith.
thing there, I believe.
Barry
Wow.
I got
Windsor.
the-
Who's the girl in the picture by your hand?
Oh,
that's a
an
girl I was
X-Men.
dating.
Kelsey's Comics. Can you tell
New
us
Teen
about that?
the New Teen Titans.
Kelly's Comics was the first comic book store to open up in Sparta, Illinois.
Oh
up
wait,
until that
here
point-
we go. Look, there's RJ's girlfriend.
Yeah. And up until that point, there had not been a comic store in Sparta, and there didn't need to be, because if I wanted comic books, I would just go to a friend's house and say, "What'd your dad bring home?" Because
Right.
every comic book in the world through the 60s, 70s, and 80s was printed in Sparta, Illinois.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you
Right.
worked there, they just brought home the print overruns like you would extra donuts at a bakery.
That's what I did at
Exactly.
World. That's what I did at World Color when I worked for World Color.
Well, it was
Marvel.
World Color, yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't know you worked at World Color Press, so there's that. And they started to crack down on it after a while,
Mhm.
because, well, not after a while, but you've always got that one guy who ruins it for everybody.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah. They and then some of the runs run a little short. As far as contracts. They're running short.
Right.
So if too many people take them out the door, then they're kind of run
Well,
short.
there was one
on
guy who
meeting
planned his
order.
retirement. He was going to walk out with basically a hefty bag full of a Marvel #1 title, a number one
Oh.
Marvel title, because of course Marvel Comics #1, and it was the '80s, so this was a hot character title. This man totally planned his retirement off of 80 pounds of Smurfs #1.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Well,
Smurfs
at least
#1.
the creator of Smurfs got to retire. Hey, Colonel.
Good
I see
investment,
you-
man.
I see you have a Marvel team up number 150, Barry Windsor Smith by your elbow there.
The
Barry
X-Men and,
Windsor Smith cover with the X-Men. And you have the old Iceman limited series that
yes,
came out in the 80s.
I loved that series. I've got the
Great George
Wolfie-
Perez annual up there, all the way up in the right-hand corner.
yeah, two of them. You got number 1 and number 2.
Number 1
first
and
appearance of my favorite DC character, Vigilante.
Mm.
yeah, Vigilante.
Oh
Very
man, did you
good.
see what they did to Vigilante in that new show?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can deal with Peacemaker being what it is because I didn't give a shit about Peacemaker. Period.
Right.
Nobody did.
Do what you want
No,
with him,
nobody cared
but
about his
don't
ass.
do that to Vigilante because that's actually a character that I cared about.
Would
Oh,
Barry
dude,
Windsor Smith
they completely turned him into just a fucking walking joke.
would
I
Barry
know.
Windsor Smith be one on your top 5?
My top 5 has 9 or 10 people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easily.
Michael Golden. Michael Golden is.
Oh, Michael
underrated.
Golden.
I didn't
How
see him
about
mentioned
Art
before.
Adams?
Oh yeah, Art Adams is good sometimes, but
Yeah.
Depends
I
what
started
he's
reading his
doing.
X-Men stuff, and it was a little exaggerated.
Yeah.
Bissett and Toddleben working together.
Michael Golden was exaggerated too, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
not when I was okay. So my exposure to Michael Golden was also one of my favorite issues. Batman Special #1, written by Michael W. Barr, player on the other side, where they introduced the anti-Batman, not
Doing great
this
stuff.
Prometheus character who's putting discs in his head programmed to do things. Literally the anti-Batman kid whose parents were criminals, shot to death by a police officer. Psst, it was Jim Gordon. And devotes his entire life to studying how to kill police officers.
Did you
And he
like
goes-
Michael Rogers, or were you aware of him and his Batman work in the mid 70s?
Marshall Rogers?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, Marshall Rogers did the Batman comic strips that came out after the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
He did the big ears.
Yeah.
He did ears that stopped just short of being Kelly Jones ears.
Not as big as Kelly Jones. That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. Yeah. And speaking of Kelly Jones, he did Micronauts and New Voyages. And of course, Michael Golden did Micronauts, the very first issues of that. Did you read
Oh.
Micronauts?
I read some Micronauts.
Some of it?
I never read a whole lot of Marvel.
Yeah.
I got them because,
Okay.
like I said, it was a hodgepodge of just
Mostly
whatever was
DC then?
DC was what I related to. I
Yeah.
couldn't find myself. Okay, so
Yes, that
Marvel
is young
was
RJ.
heavy inked. Yes, it was.
How old were you here now?
That would have been 1985, so I would have been 17.
Okay.
But Marvel comics were more heavily inked than DC comics were with the blacks, and I was and because they were fresh from the plant, I was very susceptible to the smell of the ink, and I would get ill reading a Marvel comic. And I think it just like Pavlovian programming to me is like I'd look at Marvel comics where it's like I don't want to read that.
Wow.
But I do remember my dad bringing a stack of comics home one day. It's just, and they were comics. He just brought a handful of them home, said, "Here you go." And as long as they were comic books, it was fine. But he didn't look at the stack that day. And I started going through, it's like, oh, great, Superman, Superboy, there's a Spider-Man. And suddenly there's this thing in my hands called American Flag. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew it didn't need to be called.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Howard
I remember American Flag. Yeah.
Yeah.
First comics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In that stack, I was introduced to a lot of indie titles. There was American Flag. There was Star Slayer. There was John Sable.
Can
and
you
there were-
help me out, RJ? You're an intelligent guy. Back in the 80s, Pat Broderick, who's doing Bronze Star with Mike Barron, he did a independent comic book. Was it Pacific Comics maybe? Or I wanted to say Sunrunners, but I believe that was Dan Jurgens. I'm getting
Yeah,
the
that was
title
Dan
wrong,
Jurgens.
but Pat Broderick did
This is
what do we have there?
Pat Broderick, Fury of Firestorm.
Oh, Firestorm.
Oh.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, Firehawk. Yeah. I got
Terrence
that issue.
Firehawk, yeah.
That's a great one.
And he did a long run for DC later on Captain Atom as well.
Yes,
In
he
fact-
did.
In fact, the first appearance, the Death character that they use in Vertigo,
Yes.
those are definitely two products you need to pick up. Are the first cameo and first full appearance of Death is in like issue 40 something of Captain Atom. You definitely need to add those to your collection because I think those will go up especially if they do something more with that Death character that was really popular for them for a while in Vertigo.
Well, I think they kind of
Oh,
fucked
yeah.
that up already.
But now,
Plans
when
for
talked
the
about
TV
Filmation, RJ, I really do believe it made Aquaman a main, got him his own title somewhat, or helped out with it. He may have already had his own title. I'm not sure how the cartoon and how the comic, which came out first. Do you know?
Of which character?
Of
Aquaman.
Which
The comic
out?
came first.
Oh,
Comic came first.
Yeah.
The comic came
Sure.
first.
But I really
This
think
was
it
at-
helped build him up into hero status where he'd always been a secondary backup star in like Adventure Comics and other books.
You have to remember that Aquaman is a ripoff of Namor.
Well, if you want to phrase it that way, I suppose I have to agree with you. But
Yeah, because he debuted about a few months after Namor did.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so I just looked up the bullet hole thing we were talking about. So Protectors did a die cut hole to represent
Number
a bullet hole
3?
in it. I don't know which issue it was. It might have been, but what happened was at the same time Shannon Wheeler was doing a book, and they did shoot a real bullet through them.
Oh wow!
I'm trying to see. It was a Too Much Coffee Man story.
Oh, cool. The perfect.
Oh,
thing.
wow. That came much later.
Yeah. So let's see. Here was okay. Here it
Let's
is.
see how much damage got done to it.
It was done in Jab number 3, the bullet hole issue, and you can see it's been shot through the middle, and it's got gunpowder residue on the cover.
Oh shit!
And the guy holding it is your stereotypical comic book fan in a room of long boxes with a T-shirt that doesn't cover his belly, looking at it, crying, saying, "This book has a bullet hole in it. It's not mint. Dear God in heaven, it's not mint."
Actually, if you got one of those, it's worth more than any other comic in your collection.
Maybe, I don't know.
Because that was done on purpose.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and he was mad because it was their idea, and then as soon as they're doing it, here comes Protectors with a bullet hole die cut through it. He's like,
Right.
"Damn it!"
Oh,
And that was Malibu.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Malibu was known for stuff like that.
And they had an early Image association, didn't they? Image Comics.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
They did some crossover.
They did.
with them
They
and-
did all the Image pre-production
Was that
work.
Deathmate, right? Wasn't that Malibu
Yeah.
and Image crossing over?
Yeah, it was.
It was. And then Marvel bought Malibu because of their coloring department, and you didn't do
Right.
anything more.
Here you go,
Yeah, because
folks.
that's all they wanted, man. Because Image and the Indies were killing them on color.
That's what we're talking about. First ever Force Beam Hold comic. This issue is not to be missed. Take a look. It has a die cut right there in the middle of his
Yep,
chest,
that's the
like
one.
Right. Like it
Protector's
was
number
burned.
5,
Like it was.
polybagged.
Yeah. Look,
Polybagging is
hole.
not easy. There's a close up of it. Went all the way through the book.
Right.
That's awesome. Take a look.
Polybaggers are a nightmare to run. Malibu's hot new full color superheroes protectors #5 with gravestone up there in the Ditko box. I call it
Yep.
a Ditko box because he's the one that kind of brought that over
Yeah.
to Marvel. Although
And you know those poly
do
bags will
think-
ruin your comics.
What's that?
Those poly bags will ruin your comics. If you've got Death of Superman and it's still in the poly bag, you've got a bag of pulp.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I opened my poly bag finally when Christopher Reeve died, because the poly bag one came with a black armband in it, and I wore the black
Right.
Superman armband when Christopher Reeve passed.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
those.
What did it do to the comic?
It just eats them. They're not
Yeah.
acid free, and they're
Yeah.
biodegradable. So they're degrading and taking the paper with them.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you say take it out of the poly bag. I still have poly
That's
bag
what I-
stuff going way back. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of experimented. I bought a few of those poly bag
was not
ones,
good
and I
for that bag.
unbagged a few, and then I kept a couple in the bag.
I've still got some Wizards poly bagged with the little
Mm.
goodies and everything.
Oh yeah. They might.
You
they were a
definitely
different paper
recommend taking out. I still got Frisbees from the early '80s, and that took kind of, clung to the thing and took the decal
Yeah.
off.
Well, that's
somewhat.
Yeah.
It'll do that for sure. Like you'll take the color off the ink
But-
covers.
but
Yeah.
what
The
about
Wizard magazines were more slick.
what about the value though? You
Well,
say definitely take it out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I would.
unopened, let's say Buck Rogers toy from the 30s, what would be more valuable, unopened or opened?
Well,
Well, a
obviously
Buck
unopened
Rogers
there.
toy from the 30s, it'll be more valuable opened.
Opened, you think?
Yeah. Because
That's an argument for the poly bag not to open it.
Yeah.
But now
Well,
prove
here's
me
the
wrong.
thing. It's not the fact that you're leaving it packaged. Obviously, you want to do that for a collectible toy.
It's
You got it in the
conditioned.
original
Right.
packaging. But when it's packaged in something that's going to slowly destroy it,
carry itself, yeah.
it's like your yogurt will last a lot longer in the fridge, but if you're leaving it out on a table, not so
Yeah.
much. It's not
It'll
as
slowly
valuable
destroy
anymore.
itself.
I'll put you a link in the private chat there.
Okay.
Most of the
is that-
plastics that they used back then were prone to doing that.
Yeah, those were. I was putting comics in the bags, and then I was just folding them with enough lip to put a thumbtack through. I wasn't
Mhm.
thumbtacking the comics. No. I didn't.
Yeah, I was. That's why I highlighted that, RJ, that you weren't actually
Right through the cover.
nailing it to the wall with a tack.
I just use a nail gun.
Saves a lot of time.
What are we looking at, RJ? What are we looking at?
This is jab number 3. So if you scroll down just a little bit, there is the cover for jab number 3.
bullet hole issue.
And there is the bullet hole. They shot the thing with a 22.
Oh, right there where the jab is, where his hands are.
So
Yeah.
so the collector is holding a magazine that's got a bullet hole through it on a magazine that's got a bullet hole through it.
Now, this is an early Too Much Coffee Man appearance, right?
Yes, it is.
I guess that would be the big value in it, wouldn't it? Would be the Coffee Man. He kind of took off for a little while.
He did take off,
Yeah.
sort of like Milk and Cheese
Yeah,
did.
Yeah. This book has a bullet hole in it. It's not mint. Dear God in heaven, it's not mint.
It
That'd be
is,
like-
man.
Not polybag. There you go. There's a close up. Wow.
It's
That's
it's one of those gimmicks that they use
Yeah.
that they did with most crime comics.
Oh, so they actually use that in the art where like the tires being blown out.
Yep.
Exactly.
Wow. That's genius. Wow. I'll have to
That'd be
read this. I'll have to read this little article on that. I was unaware of that. Very interesting.
Most of the gimmicks they use was to put a little bit of realism into the book.
Yeah, that one helped.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I got tired of gimmicks, was when they started doing the Robin miniseries.
Oh
over
yeah.
and over. Yeah.
Most that's what most people threw up their hands with the gimmicks.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm still okay when they're putting the holographic sticker on the cover of the Joker in Robin
Yeah.
number 2. But when they
Yeah.
went to Robin number 3 and it was like this lenticular, okay, so
Yeah.
there's lenticular covers where you tilt it and you get a motion thing.
Or they
Right.
actually had a sliding thing too.
That's what this one was. And it was
Mhm.
just, the cover was
Yeah.
rippled and moisture soaked or whatever. It just
Yeah.
didn't work.
I've still got a
Um,
bunch of
Yeah.
those in the poly bag. So you're saying take them out of the poly bags, huh?
Well, probably too late now, but
It's probably too
Probably
late
too
depending
late.
on how long you've had it.
Well, I've had them since 1997.
that was
I
just
know.
an annoying
I
thing.
told
I was
them
like,
not
I'll
to
never
do
do
Probably
that.
dead now, Rick.
Some are open and some are not. They did so many holograms with that Joker and Batman and Robin holograms on those things.
Oh man, the holographic covers with
Yeah,
That
and like
came
the
out-
They're
holographic
everywhere,
covers
man.
were a big gimmick.
yeah,
That came out around the same time as the Green Lantern started to change, where Hal
Yeah.
Jordan went nuts. And I remember
was
they
that
came out with
Parallax?
Green Lantern rings. Yeah, they came
Yeah.
out with
Yeah.
Green Lantern rings, and I've still got my
Parallax.
Green Lantern ring. Not like the ones you still see in the comic stores now, where they got a whole jar full of the different colored rings. I've got
Mhm.
the big fat one with the those are out, but mine is big and bulky, and the center of it is glow in the dark. So,
Yeah.
Oh, I
Charging
remember
us
that ring. I remember
Now
that
that-
ring. It was just
Didn't
too,
that
it was
come with the
too much.
DVD? The ring,
well, there was no such thing as DVDs when I got
or
this.
are you talking the
No,
Burger
this-
King one? The Burger King one. That one's really big, glowing.
No, this came. I got it at the comic shop. It was
No,
Oh, okay.
there was a limited run at comic shops for Green Lantern rings.
let me see if I can
Ah,
get it because I
okay.
think it's in the closet here with my Green
Okay.
Lantern costume,
All right.
which I'm not going
With
to
the
put on.
lantern.
I remember
hope.
seeing one, I think, in like the Diamond catalog or something.
Mm.
With the Green Lantern, I hope. Right there's my lantern. That's a bank.
Green Lantern was my first subscription to a comic book.
That's pretty wild, actually. That would be.
Whatever happened to the subscription service?
I don't know, dude. Well,
never
the
had
direct
one.
market, it killed the newsstand and it killed the subscription.
Yeah,
It
that was-
it was shortly after that.
Well, your subscription service, they often folded the comic.
You see that, don't you? That's my lantern.
I used to
I
get
see
mine
that
like in a
lantern.
brown wrapper, like a Playboy, and they usually came mostly flat.
So this is part of my Green Lantern.
It
It
Holiday.
depends on who. It
Whoa.
all
very
depends on
cool.
who was handling it.
Who are you kidding? That is a dyed in the wool Lone Ranger. Well, I mean,
It was,
green
it was
one.
originally white, and I
Okay.
craft painted it.
There you go.
So it is green. It is the right color green.
Yeah.
And then it's in the bag with this right here.
I have one just like that. Yep.
You just
That,
put it
when
against
you
light
said
here,
really
right
big,
there,
that's
right
the one I thought of.
and this would.
And
Oh,
how did you
yeah.
get-
Oh
how did
yeah,
you
look at
get
that
one?
noise.
How did you get that at the comic store? Right? I guess I
Yeah,
bought.
comic store.
I guess I bought mine at the comic store because I have one just like that.
Normally, when I wear it, I have a pair of white magician's gloves. They're real thin fabric, so I
Mhm.
wear those.
Yeah.
I got the classic Green Lantern symbol on a T-shirt, and I wear it with black sweatpants and a black turtleneck, and I put the shirt on over the turtleneck. And put the gloves
Well,
on.
Lana Lang, you pulled out those old Legion of Superheroes, one of my favorite characters, which did not make that many appearances, maybe 2 or 3 appearances on comics. One was a Superboy with B-Boy, I believe. She was, an honorary Legionnaire, and she had a little ring given to her, which
Yeah.
changed her into the Insect Queen.
I remember Insect Queen.
Yeah, I love
Insect
it.
Queen died with Elastic Lad.
No, don't say, don't tell me that.
in the Alan Moore 2-part story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Oh God, I probably
Yeah.
have that. And haven't read it.
You're kidding me.
Was
You
that
haven't read
Golden Era, or I mean, what was it called?
It was
Tell
right
me the
before
title.
John Byrne took over.
Yeah.
It was the last Superman story in Action and Superman before John Byrne did Man of Steel.
Right.
The last Crisis stuff. So
Okay.
and it was, dude, I could talk about this one thing for like an hour, and you haven't read it, so I
Yeah.
can't.
Oh man,
Got to read this.
Well,
you
Alan
have
Moore-
to read
I
this.
haven't read it. Maybe I haven't read it since the 80s. My first collection was destroyed, RJ. Back in
Alan Moore's stories outside of Swamp Thing, before he lost his damn mind,
right.
were
Yeah.
fantastic. His Green Lantern stuff, Mogo Doesn't Socialize, fantastic Green Lantern story.
Mogo the Planet.
Well,
Mhm.
no one had heard of Mogo until his story,
Mhm.
and it was
Yeah.
just this Green Lantern hunter who was, like, he's going to hunt down Mogo, he's going to kill Mogo and earn a name for himself, and he's tracked him to this planet, and he's going all over the planet trying to find Mogo, and he's mapping things out, and he's sitting at the table, and he's like
I
trying to
remember
rearrange
that.
the map, and he goes, "Oh God, no!" And he takes off, and you see Mogo in the background.
It's the whole planet.
He
Yeah.
discovered. It was funny how he discovered that Mogo was the planet.
Now, when
Yes,
did Mogo make his first appearance? Does anybody even know?
there, that was where it was.
Was it there in that story?
That was the first
Okay.
appearance. Because
Yeah.
All right.
if he'd appeared before, it wouldn't have had the shock value to the reader.
I remember.
Right.
I remember that story. I do remember reading that story. It was quite a
He wrote-
surprise.
It was so funny that they did it. They did this. They redid it for the Green Lantern animated series.
He did a two issue vigilante story arc where he's like, "Oh, you have a dark character? Okay, I can do that." And vigilante meets this woman who's darker than he is because she's hunting down this child.
Oh,
Grape
you
grower.
mean when? Yeah.
I want to see Mogo whip Ego's ass.
That would be a nice to see.
That'd be a good fight, wouldn't it? Planet
That
against
should
planet.
have happened in the Marvel DC amalgam
And you
thing.
could call it Battle.
It should have.
Mogo
Yeah,
It
that
should have, but it didn't.
that would've been-
That was the most disappointing thing about the amalgam thing.
Yeah, because
Well, there were a lot of
fairly
disappointing
enjoyable for the most part.
What,
Mm.
did you ever read Charlton comics, RJ?
Yes, I did. I read Charlton. I read Red Circle.
Yeah.
Um,
I've read Gold Key and Charlton. I got several Charlton cards.
How about
Titles?
Captain
Bunch
Canuck?
of
I kind of
gold keys.
looked at it and liked it, but I never bought it. Yeah, any of
It's-
it.
I've read
it's
some
pretty
Captain
good.
Canuck.
It's pretty
I
good.
have all of them now in some kind of form, but back
You ever read
then
Captain
it was
Better?
like 50 cents. You want 50 cents for a comic? No way! I can get 2 comics for that.
Yeah. Did you ever read Captain Confederacy?
Oh, I did. Yeah, that was in,
Now that
that was
now
late
that
in
was
the 80s.
interesting.
Yeah.
That was an interesting story.
Hmm.
He couldn't do that today.
No, there's
And-
no
and the
way
funny
you
thing
get
is
away
the
with
story-
that.
Well, you
The-
could
the
do
story,
it.
if they
Just
read it, there would be
canceled all
something
to
you'd read.
hell. It might. Maybe that's what we need, RJ. We need so much controversy that people buy it just to see what the blather is
Yeah.
about. I
Right.
mean, often projects take off like that. What's everybody talking
That's
about? Let me
true.
get a copy and
Well,
see.
that's what happened to Private American, isn't it? I mean,
Yep.
he had somebody
They
write
got
that
they got
article on,
shadow banned. They got shadow banned on Indiegogo,
yeah.
and everybody started talking about it, and it was like,
And they
Well,
wound up on
more than
Fox
the shadow
News.
ban,
They
they
wound
were
up on Fox
outright
News.
banned.
Earlier, I'd mentioned that to Mike. I wish we could have went into that greater detail because that kind of goes into distribution. What do we need? A bigger platform. He certainly got it on Fox News with that,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
got like a bump, of over $10,000 on his campaign. He was already
And
doing
Oh,
well,
right
but
band on
got him up
Kickstarter and
over
crowdfunding.
$40,000, I think.
Because
Oh, he
those
was
people
doing
over at,
well.
Daily Kos didn't even read the book and called a mob together, calling it a racist book.
not knowing that the main character wasn't even white.
They didn't care. They didn't care.
They didn't. I know they didn't care. It was just funny when it
and
was
those same
when they
people that wrote it
pointed out.
started themselves, and they're making a good amount of money doing some Larry Wells cherry reprints. Their last crowdfunder is doing quite well. So
Oh wow! Yeah.
Told Chris Brawley, don't let them tell you they don't have money when you sue them.
Now, what do you got coming up? What are you distributing out down the road? Anything you can talk about?
I am waiting for the last pieces to arrive here for SPQR's Bizarre Adventure, which is a Michael Oden project, which includes some Embrace plushies as part of that campaign. We're just waiting on the hardcovers and the T-shirts to get here now.
Yeah.
I've also got all the pieces except for the book itself for Red Eyes #3. American Bliss is coming in this month. Fiendish #2 is coming in this month. Drunk 3PO's book, Achromatic Chronicles Blue, is coming in 2 weeks. So it's
a lot to do.
Yeah, 2 of those projects are 2,000 plus unit projects.
Yeah, and it's not just the books, is it? It's all the like you said,
all the stretch goals go with it. Sometimes because I put them all together in groups. I've got software that processes it, and sometimes, I label them. This is Group A. This is Group B, and sometimes it spits out. I'm like, oh wow, I'm going all the way through Group A, B, Y, because just so many permutations. And then you get something like 3POs where it's like, oh, I have Group D, because it's really a book or 2 books.
What's been the largest campaign as far as book count?
It's going to be Drunk 3POs right now.
Really?
Before that, I'm doing things like 200 books. 200
what's your minimum that you'd like to do?
I don't have a minimum. I've got somebody sent me books that were 5 units to be packed and sent out.
Right.
I hear Yellow Flash has got a project in production as well.
With
he's going to be doing a comic.
Diller Draws, yeah.
Mhm.
He's got a huge following. He'll make a lot of money on it.
I'm sure he probably will.
Yeah, I make $2 per package. That's the handling cost. So that's where the profit is. So somebody has 5 books, I made $10.
And you also get some copies, right, of the leftover books?
Not really. Well, but they're still their copies. They're not my copies.
Okay. Well, I thought you took some to conventions, though.
I did, and when I sell them, they got the money.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that was part of your payment.
No, I asked them what they wanted for the books, and then I added 50 cents to them, and then the 50 cents was mine per book.
Okay. All right.
I make sure that the creators get what they want for them. Now, I'd like to be able to say, what do you want for them? And I'll just buy them, and then I can sell them for whatever I want. Just to, get them out of the way kind of thing. I'm going to move these things like an Ollie's, because I've got some titles that I got a lot of copies left over.
Yes. How often do you do conventions? Because you were just at one, weren't you? Not too long.
That was my one for the year, really.
Okay. So about one a year.
I may do another one in October, but I don't know.
And featuring all independent books, I guess, that you
all the independent books that we distribute, plus all the books that we publish or that I've written for other publishers. I've got the last 3 Destroyer novels that I wrote for Remo Williams. Those I didn't publish those, but I did write them, so I have copies available to sell.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on, RJ. I have to cut out and go to work.
I have
to go.
All right.
Yep. Got to make the money, man. Well, thanks for having me on.
Gotta make the money. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Have a good night. RJ, nice to see you, buddy.
Same here, man.
Nice meeting you, RJ.
I'm going to go get some dinner.
Yeah, I hope to have you on another time.